Washington, D.C., where at any moment the president of our country in the same
And we're joining you live tonight at exactly 9 o'clock as we're waiting for the President of the United States to join us in an address, an unprecedented address from this White House. It's specially announced yesterday, and it's about to begin. Lev Parnas joins us as well, and we'll have a whole panel of people joining us throughout all of this show. But Lev, before we get going here, you know you have good sources inside this White House. What are we expecting to see today? I mean, from this really beleaguered president who's got low approval ratings in the high 90s, who's got a White House that is completely rebelling against him. You've got Susie Wiles out there making outrageous comments about him. What's your take on what to expect tonight for everybody?
Yeah, I think I just got off the phone with some of my sources, and I know a lot of people are. Am I frozen or?
No, you're still
or
going.
just
I can still
yeah,
see
okay,
you.
yeah, okay. I thought for a second I might be frozen. Hold on a second. Oh,
That's
I
okay.
have an echo. Hold on a second.
You're good here.
Yeah,
Well, as I mentioned earlier on, we're waiting as well for
yeah.
this address. I think
Okay,
he's
perfect. Yeah,
starting right now, so let's
yeah,
just take him up live and we'll
yeah.
see what he says.
No, we're good. We're good. So, I was what I was saying to you is I was
I
just
think he's about to
speaking
start, so
to.
let's just dip in here.
Is he start? Oh, here we go. Let's go.
I think we can.
Yeah, yes, he started. Yes.
Yes.
Happened during a Democrat administration, and it's when we first began hearing the word affordability. Our border was open, and because of this, our country was being invaded by an army of 25 million people, many who came from prisons and jails, mental institutions, and insane asylums. They were drug dealers, gang members, and even 11,888 murderers, more than 50% of whom killed more than one person. This is what the Biden administration allowed to happen to our country, and it can never be allowed to happen again. We had men playing in women's sports, transgender for everybody, crime at record levels with law enforcement, and words such as that just absolutely forbidden. We had the worst trade deals ever made, and our country was laughed at from all over the world. But they're not laughing anymore. Over the past 11 months, we have brought more positive change to Washington than any administration in American history. There's never been anything like it, and I think most would agree. I was elected in a landslide, winning the popular vote and all 7 swing states and everything else, with a mandate to take on a sick and corrupt system that really just took the wealth from people and crushed the dreams of the American people. For the last 4 years, the United States was ruled by politicians who fought only for insiders, illegal aliens, career criminals, corporate lobbyists, prisoners, terrorists, and above all, foreign nations, which took advantage of us at levels never seen before. They flooded your cities and towns.
The greatest
with
hits, Lev.
illegal
It's the greatest hits.
They decimated your hard-earned savings. They indoctrinated your children with hate for America. They just released a level of violent felons that we had never seen to prey on innocent. They caused war. They caused mayhem. They caused a horrible situation all over the globe. But now you have a president who fights for the law-abiding, hardworking people of our country, the ones who make this nation run, who make this nation work. And after just 1 year, we have achieved more than anyone could have imagined. Starting on day one, I took immediate action to stop the invasion of our southern border. For the past 7 months, 0 illegal aliens have been allowed into our country, a feat which everyone said was absolutely impossible. Do you remember when Joe Biden said that he needed Congress to pass legislation to help close the border? He was always blaming Congress and everyone else. As it turned out, we didn't need legislation. We just needed a new president. We inherited the worst border anywhere in the world, and we quickly turned it into the strongest border in the history of our country. In other words, in a few short months, we went from worst to best. We're deporting criminals, restoring safety to our most dangerous cities. Just take a look at Washington, D.C. It's at levels of safety that we've never seen before. And they decimated the bloodthirsty foreign drug cartels. We did that all by ourselves with our people, and we're so proud of it because they were poisoning and destroying our population. Drugs brought in by ocean and by sea are now down 94%. We have broken the grip of sinister woke radicals in our schools, and control over those schools is back now in the hands of our great and loving states where education belongs. After rebuilding the United States military in my first term, and with the addition we are adding right now, we have the most powerful military anywhere in the world, and it's not even close. I've restored American strength, settled 8 wars in 10 months, destroyed the Iran nuclear threat, and ended the war in Gaza, bringing for the first time in 3,000 years peace to the Middle East, and secured the release of the hostages, both living and dead. Here at home, we're bringing our economy back from the brink of ruin. The last administration and their allies in Congress looted our treasury for trillions of dollars, driving up prices and everything at levels never seen before. I am bringing those high prices down and bringing them down very fast. Let's look at the facts. Under the Biden administration, car prices rose 22% and in many states 30% or more. Gasoline rose 30 to 50%. Hotel rates rose 37%. Airfares rose 31%. Now, under our leadership, they are all coming down and coming down fast. Democrat politicians also sent the cost of groceries soaring, but we are solving that too. The price of a Thanksgiving turkey was down 33% compared to the Biden last year. The price of eggs is down 82% since March, and everything else is falling rapidly. And it's not done yet, but boy, are we making progress. Nobody can believe what's going on. Here are just some of the efforts that we have underway. You will see in your wallets and bank accounts in the new year. After years of record-setting falling incomes, our policies are boosting take-home pay at a historic pace. Under Biden, real wages plummeted by $3,000. Under Trump, the typical factory worker has seen a wage increase of $1,300. For construction workers, it's $1,800. For miners, we're bringing back clean, beautiful coal. It's $3,300. And for the first time in years, wages are rising much faster than inflation. Remember that. The wages, just look at it. Wages are going up much faster than inflation. How big is that? Very importantly, there are more people working today than at any time in American history, and 100% of all jobs created since I took office have been in the private sector. Think of that. 100% of all jobs have been in the private sector rather than government, which is the only way to make a country powerful and great. This historic trend will continue. Already, I've secured a record-breaking $18 trillion of investment into the United States, which means jobs, wage increases, growth, factory openings, and far greater national security. Much of this success has been accomplished by tariffs. My favorite word, tariffs, which for many decades have been used successfully by other countries against us, but not anymore. Companies know that if they build in America, there are no tariffs, and that's why they're coming home to the USA in record numbers. They're building factories and plants at levels we haven't seen, AI, automobiles. We're doing what nobody thought was even possible, not even remotely possible. There has never, frankly, been anything like it. 1 year ago, our country was dead. We were absolutely dead. Our country was ready to fail, totally failed. Now, we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. And that's said by every single leader that I've spoken to over the last 5 months. Next year, you will also see the results of the largest tax cuts in American history that were really accomplished through our great, big, beautiful bill, perhaps the most sweeping legislation ever passed in Congress. We wrapped 12 different bills up into one beautiful bill. That includes no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. Under these cuts, many families will be saving between $11,000 and $20,000 a year, and next spring is projected to be the largest tax refund season of all time. Because of tariffs, along with the just passed One Big Beautiful Bill, tonight I am also proud to announce that more than 1,450,000, think of this, 1,450,000 military service members will receive a special, we call Warrior Dividend before Christmas, a Warrior Dividend. In honor of our nation's founding in 1776, we are sending every soldier $1,776. Think of that. And the checks are already on the way.
They're in the
Nobody
mail.
understood that one until about 30 minutes ago. We made a lot more money than anybody thought because of tariffs, and the bill helped us along. Nobody deserves it more than our military, and I say congratulations to everybody. And by the way, we now have record enlistment in our military, and last year we had among the worst recruitment numbers in our military's history. What a difference a year makes. In addition, I'm doing what no politician of either party has ever done, standing up to the special interest to dramatically reduce the price of prescription drugs. I negotiated directly with the drug companies and foreign nations, which were taking advantage of our country for many decades, to slash prices on drugs and pharmaceuticals by as much as 400, 500, and even 600%. In other words, your drug costs will be plummeting downward, and I used the threat of tariffs to get foreign countries who would never have done it to pay the cost of this giant dollar reduction. They stopped ripping us off, and it began as of 4 days ago. There has never been anything like this in the history of our country. Drugs have only gone up, but now they'll be going down by numbers never conceived possible. It's called Most Favored Nation, and no president has ever had the courage or ability to get this done until now. The first of these unprecedented price reductions will be available starting in January through a new website, TrumpRx.gov. And these big price cuts will greatly reduce the cost of health care. I'm also taking on the gigantic health insurance companies that have gotten rich on billions of dollars of money that should go directly to the people. The money should go to the people. That's you. So they can buy their own health insurance, which will give far better benefits at much lower cost. It will be far better health insurance. The current Unaffordable Care Act was created to make insurance companies rich. It was bad health care at much too high a cost. And you see that now in the steep increase in premiums being demanded by the Democrats, and they are demanding those increases, and it's their fault. It is not the Republicans' fault. It's the Democrats' fault. It's the Unaffordable Care Act, and everybody knew it. Again, I want the money to go directly to the people so you can buy your own health care. You'll get much better health care at a much lower price. The only losers will be insurance companies that have gotten rich, and the Democrat Party, which is totally controlled by those same insurance companies. They will not be happy, but that's okay with me because you, the people, are finally going to be getting great health care at a lower cost. Another major focus is the cost of energy. For years, the radical left Democrats exploited the green energy scam as an excuse to funnel many billions of dollars into their own massive slush funds as their energy restrictions drastically drove up prices, and they drove them up at record levels. Electricity costs surged 30 to 100% under Biden, and the typical family lost $5,000 to $10,000 in higher energy costs. Think of that, $5,000 to $10,000 you lost On day one, I declared a national energy emergency. Gasoline is now under $2.50 a gallon in much of the country. In some states, it, by the way, just hit $1.99 a gallon. And within the
Where? I'd
next
like to know
12
where.
months, we will have opened 1,600 new electrical generating plants, a record, and it's a record that won't be beaten by practically, I would say, by anybody, or certainly not very soon. Prices on electricity and everything else will fall dramatically. The Democrat inflation disaster, again, the worst in the history of our country, also robbed millions of Americans of home ownership and indeed the American dream. The yearly cost of a typical new mortgage increased by $15,000 under Democrat rule. In 11 months, we've already gotten that annual cost down by $3,000, and it's coming down a lot lower. Wait till you see. The numbers are going to be shocking. And I'll soon announce our next chairman of the Federal Reserve, someone who believes in lower interest rates by a lot, and mortgage payments will be coming down even further. Early the new year, and you will see this, in the new year, I will announce some of the most aggressive housing reform plans in American history. A major factor in driving up housing costs was the colossal
Developers like you.
border invasion. We have never been invaded. This is the worst thing that, frankly, in my opinion, the worst thing that the Biden administration did to our country is the invasion at the border. The last administration and their allies in Congress brought in millions and millions of migrants and gave them taxpayer-funded housing while your rent and housing costs skyrocketed. Over 60% of growth in the rental
Feels
market
like we're
came
watching
from
SNL
foreign
or
migrants.
something, no?
It is.
At the
It's
same
like-
time,
it's-
illegal aliens stole American jobs and flooded emergency rooms, getting free health care and education paid for by you, the American taxpayer. They also increased the cost of law enforcement by numbers so high that they are not even to be mentioned. For the first time in 50 years, we are now seeing reverse migration as migrants go back home, leaving more housing and more jobs for Americans. In the year before my election, all net creation of jobs was going to foreign migrants. Since I took office, 100% of all net job creation has gone to American-born citizens, 100%. In the end, government either serves the productive, patriotic, hardworking American citizen, or it serves those who break the laws, cheat the system, and seek power and profit at the expense of our nation. Look at Minnesota, where
himself pretty well.
Somalians have taken over the
don't know.
economics
He
of the
looks-
state and have stolen billions and billions
doesn't
of
look
dollars
terrible,
from
you know?
Minnesota and indeed
He
from
doesn't
the
look good.
United States of America. And we're going to put an end to it. For so long as before my election, the vast majority of good and decent Americans were forced to watch as corrupt politicians plundered the halls of power, exploited our taxpayers, and pillaged every system that makes civilized society function. But not anymore, and you see that every day, not anymore. We're putting America first, and we are making America great again. Very simple. We are making America great again. Tonight, after 11 months, our border is secure. Inflation has stopped. Wages are up. Prices are down. Our nation is strong. America is respected, and our country is back, stronger than ever before. We're poised for an economic boom, the likes of which the world has never seen. Soon we will host the World Cup and the Olympics, both of which I got. But most importantly, we will celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. There could be no more fitting tribute to this epic milestone than to complete the comeback of America that began just 1 year ago. When the world looks at us next year, let them see a nation that is loyal to its citizens, faithful to its workers, confident to its identity, certain to its destiny, and the envy of the entire globe. We are respected again like we have never been respected before. To each and every one of you, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. God bless you all.
Well, at least he got through it all. I mean, that's the upside. Right? Yeah, and then he stands there. Boy, Lev, I mean, this guy looks terrible. I mean, he just looks like your angry uncle, screaming at you at all these things he's done. There's no connection with what he's talking about. He's just yelling, and all these promises. I mean, really, he's going to send $1,776 to all the military people. I mean, is that really going to happen? And
The check is in
and
the
for
mail.
what? What's he doing it for? What's your take,
Uh,
man?
Listen, I mean, I was worried at first because earlier in the day we had a show, and I was on the show with one of my cohorts, Michael Cohen, and Michael said that one of the sources said that he's going to announce war into Venezuela today. And I was taken aback because I was really shocked. I was like, you can expect anything from Donald Trump. And I was on the phone with some of my sources. They said, no, it's going to be a nothing burger, basically. And that's why I told you we should go live and comment on it, because
Mm,
he's basically, what he's trying to do is he's very desperate right now. He's very desperate. And after that Susie Wiles Vanity Fair article, after Dan Bongino announcing his leaving. These are people, you gotta understand, that he understands that now are not controllable, and they were close in the inner circle.
yeah,
Now they will be leaving, and this is what's going on. So this was a speech of desperation. Of, like you said, he was just standing there screaming, and again, this was again all about the Bidens. Poor man, he probably has hiccups every day because here's the name. I mean, 10 months later, it's still the Bidens.
it's
It's
still
his
the
economy.
Bidens.
It's
Yeah.
still everything. It's still the Bidens. So
You pointed
I
out
think that,
there in the middle of that speech that he talked about unemployment and all these jobs coming back. And, the real unemployment rate is now 4.6%. It's higher than it's been in 4 years. The black unemployment rate is at 8.3%. They've lost 300,000 black women jobs since this administration started. That's unbelievable, really, what it's doing on a race level to this country, by targeting just these minority communities, for job cuts, and then replacing all these federal jobs with his cronies. I mean, that's basically what he's done. And that is hurting America tremendously. And all of that has a ripple effect. Of course, you lose those jobs, you lose that generating income that those jobs make in those communities, and so you're driving, especially black communities, into poverty on purpose. It's a real apartheid policy that he's sort of implemented out of the White House this year, and it's hurting Americans who are the most vulnerable.
well, and also he's using the tactic that most Americans are taught to respect the presidency, the office of the presidency, and even the lower people that don't have money, they're taught. We're taught as Americans to respect our congressmen, our senators, our president. So you don't expect, when the president of the United States is doing a special speech that like this to the is going to sit there, and if we probably fact checked him, lied 90% of the time of everything that he said. Most people can't even fathom that that could be even a reality. So a lot of people, this is part of the cult brainwashing mentality, is if you lie long enough that something is black, even though it's white, enough people will start believing that it is black. It's just
Yeah,
that common sense, because of the way the mind works. That's why they even have all of these. Like, if you look at something long enough, that number will start changing, and stuff like that. It's because the mind works in a very fascinating way. I had Dr. Hansen, Steve Hansen, that wrote the book The Cult of Trump,
yeah,
and we had a conversation about that, actually. That, where I think this is where, why he's doing this stuff, because this speech was not for people like you or me, or people on
oh yeah,
in our communities, or people that are out there. This speech was done for the average Joe, the average worker out there, that doesn't sit there on TV, that doesn't know, that is hurting, that the holidays are coming up, that can't, this was supposed to be like, oh, the president thing, everything's
yeah,
going to be okay. This is still a leftover from these are desperation, because, he understands that come January, we're going to see lots of major shifts and lots of movement coming in from the congressional house, where we're going to have mass exodus, I'm hearing, to literally in the White House. where we got Bengino leaving, which is one of his loyal soldiers, is going to go back to being a podcaster, which is extremely interesting. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
You got now Susie Wiles. That is definitely, it's just not when. It's not a matter of if, but a matter of when she will be leaving the White House. She's not sitting there after this, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because what I'm hearing is that Stephen Miller is next in line for
Oh,
the
really?
chief of staff
Oh my
job. Yeah,
gosh! Can you
so
imagine that man in the chief of
yeah,
staff? Wow.
that's
Dean's
scary.
here. Let's get a
Oh,
reading from
Dean.
Dean. Hey, Dean, how nice to see you at this time of night. This is very late.
Look
Um,
Gentlemen, all good. It's late for you too, Zev, because we literally live in the same city. So
yes,
well
I
done.
know, I know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I'm up later than
Guys,
you.
sorry I'm late. I mean, insanity, and loved how they literally created the door to Narnia behind him. All the evergreen. Wasn't that lovely?
It was very good. They did a nice decoration back there. And
I
what
couldn't
happens in Never
believe
Never
that part
Land?
of it. I'm like, Jesus Christ, too much garland already. Like, come
You know, it's all decor for this White House. These guys are all about make believe. So, but I mean, beyond the never, land of Neverland, whichever it was they were building back there, this guy is living in a fantasy universe. I mean, he doesn't have this economy. He doesn't have the support. He doesn't have the greatest anything, and he keeps talking about it. He's going to give military soldiers $1,776 dollar checks, and the checks are in the
Yeah.
mail already. This is, what's he trying to do? Bribe them? Is this what it's
Well,
come down to? I
oh
don't
yeah,
get
yeah.
it.
Well, dude, and then here's the thing. And listen, Lev, you and I, we're friends, so we can speak honestly on this Substack Live. What does, and you know a lot of con men, right?
Yeah.
What do con men do? They tell you that all these things are coming.
Yeah.
And not only are they coming, they're going to be so fantastic, you won't even believe it. Never seen it before.
Yeah.
Never. You've never seen this before. This is incredible. Like nobody's ever seen. And when you're sitting there literally overtaken by conversations like this. I've been conned before. I get it. I watched it tonight. I watched the replay of it.
Yeah.
I watch it every day when I watch this man, pretend to be the president of the United States, which he's not. And then you add a dementia diagnosis on top of it, which he's hiding, obviously. I mean, Jesus Christ, what did we just watch?
He looks like
that,
your mad
that,
uncle, right? He looks like your
no,
mad
that
uncle
was
from Saturday Night
yeah,
Live. That guy.
that was pretty bad. I gotta admit. I don't know who okayed it, who who thought that that was like, and what in that speech did. I mean, it was lies, lies, lies against attack. It was, I mean, it was again. I thought it was going to be worse. I was expecting worse. And then last minute I got a phone call. It was, it was weird. It was just weird. It was, I still can't. I don't know. I still don't know who he was actually talking to. Which crowd of people besides the average American person that has no idea what's going on, but how many people don't know what's going on? And I mean, in this world, with the past 10 months, with everything that Donald Trump has on. He spoke nothing about what's it called, ICE. He spoke nothing about the fact that we're killing people in the middle of the ocean. He spoke nothing about that he designated fentanyl a weapon of
Mm-hmm.
mass destruction. I still can't believe that he, a weapon of mass destruction,
Mhm.
folks. He's pretending that gas is. I don't know where he keeps saying gas is $1.99. I don't know. Here it's 3.59. The lowest
Hey,
I've seen
dude,
gas
I
was
got to
like
ask
three.
you this
I
question.
don't know. Like
I'm literally listening to you, like I'm hanging on every word as I always do because I fucking love you and you know that.
I
But
love you, brother.
like I got to ask you this question: what you watched tonight, compare that to him.
Yeah.
Let's just give him credit and say 2016.
Yeah.
Like
Oh no.
compare what you just saw tonight in terms of cognitive ability, in terms of like God complex. Like,
Mhm.
what's the difference?
Well, first of all, he wouldn't have done it in 2016. That's what I'm saying to you. The fact that he came out and did an embarrassing speech like that literally had. I mean, again, The critics are good. I mean, Fox News is destroying him. Nobody understands what that was even about. I mean, he basically
Mhm.
came out and spoke for. I mean, this is the shortest speech I think he's ever done. Also, I mean, I don't think he's ever spoken for such a short period of time. His usually intro is a
Well
much longer. His
managed, right?
dance. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah. Great point.
this was really like, I'm curious again who put this together. This was somebody's brain fart in the White House. Somebody had an idea and they said, "This is what you're gonna do. You're gonna deliver a holiday message, and you're gonna in that holiday message. This is what you're gonna stay. You're gonna stay on script. You're not gonna go off script. You're not gonna do." And this was like worked on. You could tell because he was dying to go off script. He was dying to say, but he, read word for word what that teleprompter
Yeah.
said.
It
I'm
probably
still in
killed him too,
control. I'm
right?
still in control. I'm still the president. I can still handle this. I can still read full
Yeah,
sentences. The
Yeah, yeah,
reality of it
yeah, yeah.
is he's got a rebellion
But
in
can
the
he?
can he? It's a good
Kelly.
question.
Hey,
He's
Nick.
got a
What's up,
rebellion
brother?
in the Congress.
I
He's
don't
got
know.
Michael Johnson is facing a four-person rebellion. He's got sinking approval ratings. He's got these elections that keep happening. There's one in Kentucky yesterday. We were speaking about it earlier, Dean. The margin that Kentucky state senator won by was 50% or 45%. I mean, he is doing terribly. His party's doing terribly. And Nick Parra joins us as well from Banner and
Hey, Nick, you got a
and
check coming. You heard that?
yeah, you excited about your
Congratulations,
check?
brother. You got a check coming.
Do I?
I
Do
don't know
I?
if you
The
get
check,
the
Oh,
check.
the check
Someone's
is in the
getting a
mail.
check.
The check is in the mail.
I'll believe it. I'll believe it one day. I'll believe it one day. I'm doing good.
$1,776.
Where they
Man,
come? How they come up with that number? What number did who? Who gave? Where did he get this
It's
money?
1776. It's
Yeah.
It's the U.S.
Ah, there
birthday.
you go. Yeah, look at
They're
that.
doing some
Creative.
dumb. It's called Eagle Jizz, is what it
Eagle
is.
Jizz.
We call that
100%.
Eagle Jizz here on Banner and Backbone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, fuck that
Boys,
guy.
I got to split.
Okay.
I love you all. You keep going, okay? Keep it
All
up.
right.
Keep
All
the
right.
faith.
We'll
Well
keep
done.
going.
Go done. Go
See.
get it. Dude. Get some rest, brother. See you tomorrow.
It's got an early morning, that man. Here we go. We're back here. So Nick, what's as a you're a veteran. Tell me what you think about all of that. You've got a guy who's
I
trying to
think
bribe the military.
Michael Cohen's here also. I think I
Okay.
just saw him go on.
I haven't seen him join us yet,
Um,
but he's going to be in a second, I think.
I think you guys
I
send him the link. Yeah.
I did send him
it's
one.
weird to get military bonuses like that just randomly thrown out as like, hey, we're gonna throw this on you. But at least we're not going he didn't announce we were going to war tonight. Like at least he
What
didn't
the condition
unilaterally
was.
announce that.
And that's what I was
He
worried
like
about. That's
yeah.
one of the things that they were saying out there, and then last minute I got a call and they said it's going to be a complete nothing burger, and that's what I was like, what? And that's why when Zev said, "What is he going to be?" and we both said, "That looks like it's going to be nothing." 20-minute there. I couldn't believe that he stayed on pace. Actually, that was like boom, boom, boom.
Well, he had a lot of
I think
pressure
he
in
was
the
trying to
networks.
make himself look normal.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, Nick. I think it's exactly what they were trying to do, is make him look normal, make him look acceptable to America again, because everyone fears that he's lost his mind, and he looks like he's lost his mind, and his policies are, borderline insane. He was threatening to launch a war against Venezuela, and that was the attempt that he was trying to do around today's address. He obviously didn't do that, but the military is is investigating Mark Kelly for telling the troops to not follow illegal orders. I mean, it's becoming a skit on Saturday Night Live, is what you called it earlier on, Lev. It really looks like it. It's becoming a parade of nonsense policies. And then you got Susie Wiles telling everybody in the world through Vanity Fair that he has got an alcoholic's personality. He looked like one tonight. His vice president is a conspiracy theorist, according to her. Dan Bongino just left his job, just isn't showing up for work anymore, and has no intention of returning to his job as a deputy FBI director. Pete Hegseth is up for a war crime investigation right now. Because he's shooting people, in the Caribbean without any authority, shipwrecked people. You've got, and the list is ended. Kirsty Noem has basically given her boyfriend control of the Department of Homeland Affairs. I mean, this just goes on and on and on. It's Pam Bondi, by their own admission. And then you got the Epstein papers that are just coming out, Epstein files that are coming out on Friday. I mean, this just does not get any worse than this.
But don't worry. No, go ahead, Lev.
I was gonna say, isn't it curious how Dan Bongino left right before the Epstein files are supposed to come out?
Wow.
It's telling, right? It's
It's
telling.
telling.
Very
Dan
telling.
Oh
Look
my
And
who's
God! Look,
driving their
look at
don't
car
look,
worry.
there.
Michael.
Michael
Look at
Cohen.
them,
Hello, Michael
Michael. Look
Cohen.
at you, Michael. Look at
Evening,
that. I like
Michael.
that.
How
I like that. I
how
like
how
that.
are we doing?
Yeah, we are doing good. How are you doing?
You doing?
Frustrated with city traffic. That I can assure you.
It's a good view you get out of your sunroof there as well. It looks very nice. Looks very New York. So
Well,
tell us what's your thoughts on the speech. Did you get to hear it?
yeah, I only heard a short part of it. Obviously, he was only on for, which is shocking to me. He was on only for a very short period of time. I was certain that he was going to declare war. I had heard from a contact, a source of mine, that this was something that they had been discussing all day long. That he was going to declare war, that he was going to claim Venezuela as a terrorist organization, a drug dealing terrorist organization. They were going to go to war. Who was it that ended up getting into his ear to express to him that this would be a major, major mistake, especially at this time? I don't know, but I'm certainly thankful that whoever it was that actually got to him was successful in getting him to water down the poison.
Well, I think the military was not going to play ball in any attack. I don't think the military supports him. We saw that video the other day.
Please don't kid yourself on
Yeah.
that one. There are more than enough in the military that are willing to follow any direction that he comes up with, starting with Pete Hegseth all the way at the top to the bottom. And anybody that chooses not to follow his explicit direction will automatically be removed, and a buck private, all right, and make them an admiral or a general simply because they're willing to follow the direction. Make no bones about that one. There's always somebody that's willing to follow an improper directive.
Yeah, but there's a long, gray line, as they call it, of history there that these, and Nick can talk about this as well.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us? I can hear you. Nick, we can hear you. Mike, we can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear.
We can
I
hear
hear
you.
you, Mike.
Yes, we can.
Yep.
We can hear you. Maybe you can't hear
I
us.
well,
But
well,
Nick,
I think this grays.
Yeah, go ahead.
I
I can't hear you now, Mike. We've lost
oh,
you.
now we can't hear.
Now, Michael, we lost you now. You were there and now you're gone. You might have to rejoin, or I don't know what you did. If you muted yourself. No, can't hear you now. He does not like this platform at all. But, Nick, tell me a little bit about what Michael was saying, that this is not true, that every, soldier can just be thrown in there. It ultimately is going to rely on people following the Constitution, and these soldiers are by the very oaths have to follow the Constitution.
Well, there is a good old phrase that says if we're relying on the military to do its job, democracy is lost already. So we do have to admit that we're pretty far down that rabbit hole, where there are enough MAGA supporters and MAGA loyalists or those who are just willing to go along and have been indoctrinated into it, that I don't think we would see them say no. We've gone into wars for even less in other places too. Like it won't be the first time that the US would have started a stupid, unnecessary, and frankly, just costly war and just lose. But we can think on the good fact that there are enough service members that have said no, because if they hadn't have said no enough, if there hadn't been enough high-ranking service members who had said no, he would have declared war tonight.
Yeah,
I think there was enough military pushback that they can't.
And I think the Congress is also about to pass a bill tomorrow, doing exactly this, not allowing him to go to war with Venezuela, to make it against the law for him to do that. So there's legislation, and then there's the military and Congress. No one's really interested in letting him see this war through. But
No, I
Mike,
think he definitely. Yeah, go
so
ahead.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Go
I
ahead.
just want to see,
No,
Michael,
no,
can
no.
you hear us? I just want to. You might need to reconnect, Michael, if you can't, because we can hear you. Okay, but go ahead, Lev. I'm really interested in your take as well on Susie Wiles as well and what she's been
Yeah,
doing in
no,
there.
it's definitely. I definitely believe that Trump wants to, go to war. Trump wants to flex his power and get Maduro out of there. I think Trump understands and part of the oil, the power, and that's some of the things we've been discussing. It is curious to see who and how or talked him out of it and when it was talked about. But the one thing that I heard from one of my sources earlier, right before we went on, as I told you, Zev, is that the problem was there was no benefit. It's the holidays. It's right before Christmas to announce a war that the country already, the polls show 70 or I think percent of the country is against, that Congress against. There was no benefit. There was nothing that he was going to gain by doing it today or doing it 2 weeks from now. Instead, by dragging it out, he still has that card of because once he announces it, and when he announces, because I believe he will announce it. I believe it's just a matter of time. But I think when he announces it, it'll be a strategical play, not only to take over the oil, but also to use that to be able to somehow stop elections or pause elections during war, or some way to be able to use that in his way to mess with the midterms. Because as of now, that is why we're seeing what we're seeing from Susie Wiles, Dan Bongino. So a lot of people are seeing the writing on the wall, and they're starting to the exodus is starting.
There really is an
Yep,
exodus.
totally agree with you on that, Lev. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest concerns that right now that exists again was whether or not he was going to declare war on Venezuela, literally this evening as a terrorist organization, using again national security as the basis for the claims that he was going to make to go after the oil, go after the mineral rights in the ground and the land in and of itself. I mean, this is the game that they intended on playing. And again, I'm not 100% certain I could tell you who it was that somehow managed to water down the poison here, but whoever it was managed to do a very good thing because they were claiming once again that Venezuela is a drug cartel, that they are a terrorist organization, and that it is his responsibility within which to protect the American people from this sort of national security threat, in the fact that all the fentanyl in the world is coming on these 25 vessels that they blew up, the 90 or 100 people who they've killed. That by blowing up 25 vessels and killing 100 people, you have now solved the entire drug war for the United States. The 300 million Americans that would have died as a result are now safe. So thank you, Mr. President. Nobel Peace Prize.
But everyone knows it's about the oil. I mean, Susie Wiles basically said it yesterday. She's wanting regime change in Venezuela. They want to see Maduro step down, and he's going to keep blowing up vessels in the Caribbean until he does. I mean, that was I think her exact quote. Until
Yeah,
Maduro cries uncle
yeah.
was the exact quote yesterday from Susie Wiles. I
I
mean,
mean,
this is
who makes a statement like that? I mean, you want another leader of another country. I don't care if it's Venezuela. I don't care if it's New Zealand. I don't care if it's Iceland. What's the difference? How many people are there in that country? You want them to cry uncle to you? What is this, like some sort of a playground?
well, oh, we lost you. We lost Michael there. But it is like a playground bully. It's exactly like a mob boss, is what I was going to say. And it's certainly the
Yeah.
feel you get when you watch this president. That's the way he rolls.
But you know what? I
And
tell you what. I'm sorry, like just quickly. What I do find
yeah, yeah.
interesting, though, that he didn't mention Venezuela at all.
Yeah.
I do find that interesting. I mean, I thought he was definitely going to go more into, like, that they're a terrorist organization. I mean, he mentioned them basically from the standpoint, and not so much Venezuela. He didn't isolate them in a way. He basically just said the border was open. They sent to the worst of the worst, the usual mumbo jumbo that he
Mhm.
talks about the border. But I was surprised, that now, he not only he didn't announce war, but he didn't even go into Venezuela, talking about how, the rhetoric that he was using earlier in the day, even before he got on the plane. You heard him talking about how, Venezuela stole our land,
Mhm.
which we don't know what land we own from
Yeah, I
Venezuela.
don't think we
That they
they
stole our
did.
oil. I mean, you heard that. So I mean, this was definitely very strange, and I can't wait to speak to some of my sources
Mhm.
later tonight or tomorrow to find out what transpired here and what's going on, because I am confused with this
This
whole
was an
thing.
affordability speech as well, I think, as at its core. But
Yeah.
go ahead, Nick.
I I think he also, we have to remember, he stopped 3,000 years of war, and 8 wars in his presidency so far.
Uh,
Just in case we forgot, the Palestinians and Jewish people have been at war for 3,000 years now, apparently, in this one segment, for this one piece.
yeah.
So thank God for Trump for that. But there's some comments about elections, and people were asking, because Lev, you mentioned the canceling elections and trying to do that. That is going to be the hardest thing he can possibly try and do in the states, because elections are run by states. Elections cannot be canceled by the federal level; they're run by the states. So he could convince enough red states to possibly cancel their elections, maybe. Could he convince any democratically run state, even like states with a governor like Vermont, where they have a Republican governor and aren't really MAGA, they wouldn't cancel their elections. So we
But he
would
could get
see
all the
this
red
weird.
states to do it, and then that would really make it
Uh,
difficult.
Right, as
I
well.
think there's too much of a tradition in the U.S. I think around elections. We have
Mhm.
never been a monarchy in our history, and I think people are going, when people finally go, well, I can't even do that. Like, I
Yeah.
might not want to do it, but I'm being told I can't now. People are going to go, well, fuck you,
Well, we've been
and
waiting
there's
for
going
that
to be a
fuck you all
lot of
along.
change.
Where is
Yeah, I
that
was
fuck?
No,
like,
I
give it
get that.
a second.
But I think the idea of voting,
Yeah.
because the idea of voting, when it becomes not a choice anymore, is going to be the next quick step, is just as quickly to say, well, they're going to just come and take your guns. You can't vote anymore, so they're going to just come and take your guns. And that's when people in America, because at that point, Americans do the right thing after exhausting all other options. And so that's
Look,
going to
this
be
is
the
what he tried to
option.
do before. He wanted to stop the elections in 2020 using this exact same mechanism of getting martial law and whatever. And Jack Smith was on the Hill today telling everybody, reminding everybody that he had
That's
more than
exactly what
probable
exactly,
cause
yeah.
to indict this president, and didn't for various other the reasons we all know, but on multiple charges here. So this
I
was a
don't think we
bad.
have to wait till the next
Yeah,
election to worry about it. I don't think he's going to be around till the next election to
that's
even
really the
bother with it.
question. Really, never like
Yeah.
this man is on his last legs physically. His
I mean,
popularity is down in the dumps. His chief of staff is stabbing him in the back every through Vanity Fair on these various comments. I mean, he has got no friends left in the world. The world absolutely despises this guy, and yet he somehow maintains his presence. I mean, he's somehow going to maintain this presidency. It just doesn't seem likely.
because he doesn't see it like you see it. That's the whole thing. He lives in a bubble. He sees it, and with the people he has around him, the enablers, don't talk to him the way you talk to. They talk to him,
God.
basically telling him, right now he got off there. They're kissing his ass, telling him how great the speech was. Like, he killed it, knocked it out of the park. The numbers are great. They're hearing things. He has people like governors of Texas and senators from other calling him, telling him, "You did great." That is what is here. That's why he's living in a bubble. And that's what typically happens to dictators and authoritarians, like Hitler was and others. They don't see what really is happening in the real world. They see the bubble, they paint the picture around them, and they surround themselves with loyalists, not loyalists, but basically yes men, and enablers to be able to agree with them. So if there's nobody giving him an opposite point, then doesn't have anything to base it off of. So that's why Trump is in this part of his circle living, and that's why they're going to go down with the ship. And I truly believe that.
Wajahat Ali joins us. Hi from the left hook. Welcome back. Nice to see you, sir. You look good.
This is
Why?
President Trump, and I just want you to know everything's fantastic and everything's great. And if you don't like it, you're gay. And I don't want you to be gay. Be a man like me, and you're weak. And the egg prices are down, and the electricity's down, and I'm the best president of all time, and everything's perfectly fine and normal. Which is why I'm speaking like I took cocaine, and I have to go to the bathroom. And I'm gonna yell and shout everything right now in 17 minutes, and then I'm gonna fall apart. And this is what normal people do on a Wednesday night at 9 p.m. who have a great, fantastic, amazing, best of all time economy. This is what they do. They just go out and they lie and they prove to the world that they're the best. Okay, stop being gay. Bye.
I mean, that is very good. That's well done. That's exactly what it felt like. Congratulations. You know,
I mean,
where's my check though? Where's my $1,776 check, Waj? I need it.
the warrior dividend. Yeah, Nick's gonna get. So yeah, apparently, folks, doing the math, Donald Trump just announced that $1,700.76. A check for 1776 will be given to nearly 1.5 million armed service members. Armed service members, which, if you do the math, is about 2.5, I think, billion dollars.
Yeah.
And apparently, he says that this money has come from apparently the trade war and the tariffs. The greatest word. My favorite word, tariffs. There's no proof that we've raised any money from the tariffs. All we know is that everything costs more money. So this president is now going to give $2.5 billion to Americans, but he hates socialism.
No, I mean it's stunning. It's the contradictions are everywhere, and you know Michael joins us back. He's back at home now.
Now I'm back home. I don't have to worry about the lousy connection from the car.
You got a nice car though, Michael. It's very nice watching you drive around. It's very like this is a big deal.
I actually,
New York City.
it wasn't the car so much. I like what Michael was wearing. For a second, he looked like his ex-boss Donald Trump. He had that, scarf around his neck. And you guys looked very much alike.
Michael, tell us about how he looked like tonight.
Maybe we should send him a Live Remembers T-shirt. Hey, Donald, you can buy the Live Remembers T-shirt by going to the merch store over at liveremembers.com.
You should send him
only with an autographed copy of the book.
But can I say something, Zed, real quick? It was, to me, and I saw all of it, and I tried to do some fact checking in real time. I did some comments in real time. It reeked of desperation. That was a weak man with a weak presidency trying to bullshit and gaslight the world. And what he did was he doubled down on all of his failed policies, right? He's negative double digits on the economy, negative double digits on the trade war, negative double digits on immigration. He's now negative double digits on foreign policy. He's negative double digits on healthcare. He's negative 30 points on an issue he didn't talk about, the Epstein files. And Zev and Lev, and this guy Michael, him, Nick, we don't have to be politicians, but I would assume if things aren't working and I'm negative double digits and I'm hemorrhaging points, you come in and this is what you would say. Folks, I know you're in pain right now. I inherited a terrible economy from Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, and I've been doing my best. And you know what? We're going to pivot, and I'm listening to you. And you do introduce something else. The fact that he couldn't do that shows you he's too dumb. He's too thick-headed. As Lev has always said, he's surrounded by yes men who paint him a rosy picture. He has no new ideas. And then towards the end, if you notice, folks, because I have a little keen ear, he didn't use the word remigrate, which is a Nazi term that is now used by Department of Homeland Security. What did he use? Reverse migration. And then he blamed all the immigrants, doubled down on the cruelty and the hatred, right? Doubled down on the tariffs and trade wars, doubled down on the big, beautiful bill, which is very unpopular, and is the greatest wealth transfer in American history, which in 2026, folks, is going to give permanent tax cuts to billionaires and gut Medicare. And just today, Zev, literally 2 hours ago, Republicans punted on extending the Obamacare healthcare subsidies, and like cowards, they're like vacation. And
but
then
you know why your theory doesn't stand. If you follow like what Lev and I constantly talk about, he doesn't believe that he's underwater in any of this because his yes men, his
That's what I said.
acolytes, he does not. They keep telling him it's all fake polls. You are more popular than ever. Look, we're going to go to Mount Pocono in Pennsylvania. We're going to pack a auditorium with 250 people, and we're going to show you just how popular and how much you are truly loved and admired. And so they go to Mount Pocono. They go to like Mount Airy Lodge, where they bring in like 150, 200 people. 50 of them are probably traveling with him on Air Force One. They pack the place with a bunch of walruses that are busy clapping for everything. The guy turns around, burps, they clap. He farts, they go ecstatic for it. And all of a sudden, he turns around and they tell him, you see, we told you, all the polls that show you underwater are actually inaccurate, and that everything we're telling you, hey, let me show you a poll or an article from, say, Newsmax or OAN or Fox that says that your immigration policy is the greatest policy in the history of this world. It's more incredible than sliced bread.
But he's
And
losing elections. He's actually losing elections, Michael. I mean, the Republicans are losing elections in several states now. They've gone, underwater by 50% in some cases.
Sure.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, except that's, again, if you acknowledge that them losing is Donald Trump. They'll turn around and say that's because Lev was a bad candidate. Zev is a horrible candidate. If you were still on the ballot, you would be winning by 30 plus points. This is what they turn around and they tell him, and he buys it because it's laudatory to him.
Zev, can I ask Michael and Lev a question?
Go for it.
We've been watching him for 10 years.
You can ask Lev whatever you want. Lev knows nothing. Lev remembers nothing. Lev has got problems. Lev is a very demented
That was
guy.
very good.
I'm telling you, Lev is demented. Lev doesn't
I
know
literally
shit.
for a second, I'm like, did Donald just enter
Lev
the
doesn't know shit. Lev remembers nothing.
I saw I've been singing for 10 years, and I saw that whole speech. He looked, honestly, he always sounds and looks terrible, but there was a level of kind of desperation, a level of manicness, a level of type of like uneased nervousness and energy in this one, Lev and Michael, that I haven't seen. He didn't have his swagger. He didn't have even his false bravado. This looked kind of like a weakened, desperate man shouting for 12 minutes at America and trying to convince us of his bullshit, knowing full well that many of us are like, no, I'm not eating pudding. This is shit.
Yeah, he speaks. The crowds are circling. I mean, this guy's got nothing to speak about. And on Friday, the Epstein files are dropping, and this is probably his number one concern. And Michael, you might be able to speak to this as well. Like, how serious is this threat that he's facing? You know the Epstein story pretty well.
Lev is suffering from terrible perspiration. Yeah. All right, it's not desperate; it's perspiration, and that's because he's out of shape. He doesn't work out. He doesn't do anything. He's not like me, 6'3", 215. All right, if you were 215, Lev, then you'd be fine.
But Michael, seriously,
But does it matter what they're telling him? To be totally honest, does it matter what they're telling Donald Trump anymore?
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
Why? Should it matter though? Should it really matter that he's a demented old fucking man? I get he has the nuclear codes, but everyone around him is really the people we should.
He's actually look. Let's be clear about something. He is not suffering from dementia. All right, we have to be extremely careful as Democrats if, in fact, our goal is to win and win big the 2026 election. We're not going to win the 2026 election by turning around and saying, Donald bad, we good. That's not going to work. All right, what we need to do, and I say this, and Lev, we're on all the time, including like tomorrow, we're going to be on Lev, myself, and Malcolm. We say this all the time to our audience. This is not an election which is where we're going to distinguish ourselves by just turning around and saying, Donald bad, we good. What we need to do is to draw out the distinctions. For example, healthcare, affordability, things like this that really matter. The fact that there is a lack of international acceptance now going on. Look at what we have done to our allies. Look at what we have done over the course of just a period of the last 6 to 7 months with just Ukraine alone, forgetting about England, forgetting about France, forgetting about Italy, forgetting about Germany, forgetting about our NATO allies, where we have abandoned them for what? For our adversaries? Don't think for a second that the military, the veterans, and the families of veterans do not see this as you and I do, crystal clear. And that, my friends, is exactly why his numbers, his poll numbers, as it relates to favorability, is in the toilet. And it's only going to get worse.
It is going to get worse. It is
Yes,
going to get much
Well,
worse.
that's what
we must
that's what I
stay
mean by should
strong.
we even be caring about Trump? Like we should be just
No,
talking
but
about those
but,
things.
but
We should be
Yes,
caring about all of the things that
exactly.
everybody else cares about. Like we just had a couple wins today that were broadcast. Melissa Corrigan and I were talking about them. Is two Mount Lake Terrace, Washington, and Flagstaff, Arizona, both locally just took down flock safety cameras from their towns. And Mount Lake Terrace is not a small area in Washington, which means, and that's because of the reporting that we're all doing on shit that doesn't have to do with Trump, but is about the surveillance state that they're building around him, is about the next steps that come after. And I think that's what we should only be really talking about. Yeah, Trump's annoying as fuck, and we should be acknowledging when he does really horrible things. But if it's not newsworthy, we should just get like tonight's speech, not really newsworthy. He was old. He sounded like crap. He insulted people by offering a $1,776 check to insult the birth date of America and our service members. Like, fuck him. And we can move on to Stephen Miller and the real shitheads.
I just want to say a couple of things on that note. First of all, I agree with you guys that definitely we need to talk about what's important. But there's two things. First of all, he's never talks about anything important. None of his press conferences are important. All of his press conferences are to embarrass, insult, deflect, lie. And that's one of the things that today I was on with Tara Stadmeyer and also with Jojo and others. And me and Waj talk about this all the time. And also on with Michael, and start blocking his speeches. Stop going and reporting on what he's talking about. Start going out there, not allowing him to go and abuse women the way he does it because anybody else would. Because I agree with you, none of what he's doing is newsworthy. They're lies, and they're also ways for him to try to put that cultivized mentality into a lot of people because he gets the millions and millions of people watching. But I also want to say I have to agree with what Waj said. Just from watching it, Michael, I think what Waj was talking about and what what's it called, Nick were talking about was that he definitely does not look the same as he did. And I definitely agree that just watching him, he's not as sharp as he is. His conversation are not the way he was just from where I remember, being around him and just watching even the way he's sitting there and he's bored and he's, falling asleep more and more. Listen, age, everything. Again, I'm not a doctor, so I can't say it's dementia or it's this or that, but he's definitely off his game. There's definitely also, we spoke about this several times, that he is getting IV treatments. I don't know for what, but I just definitely know that's part of why the bruising he's having on his hands, it's not from shaking hands. So again, I'm not saying he's sick. He's not sick. We talk about all the time, but I will definitely say he does not look today, he did not look good. Today, that speech was off. It was, first of all, it was so short. It was not him. His introduction's usually
I
longer
think he
than
had to
that.
be short. The networks gave him like 20 minutes and they said, we got to put Survivor
I
on.
think
And that was
also,
it. So I think that was the timing he was just forced to do. But I'd sort of push
It
back
was
on
a
what you
very
guys are saying. I mean,
Biden.
this guy is potentially leading us to World War III. I mean, his actions in Ukraine, his actions towards Russia, he's withdrawing all the American troops out of out of Europe. He's no longer supporting Ukraine. He's turned the entire national strategic policy of America against Europe, against liberal liberally democracies in Europe. He's targeting Canada. The path in Europe is, well, at least that's what they're telling us, is towards World War III. I mean, that's how seriously they view it. So to say that Trump isn't important is just not the case. I mean, he is in an alliance with Vladimir Putin, and he is determined to turn America into some sort of, Kremlin vassal state. I don't know how else to describe it.
Well, I don't think.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think what we're saying that he's not important. I think that, when it comes to his press conferences and when we sit there and analyze or overanalyze every word he says or talks about and goes there, I think I think that's where we are losing. I think we need to stick on the points where, affordability, economy, the fact that he is, killing people in the middle of the ocean, the war crimes, stick on, I would,
Right.
For knowing the way I know Trump, and Michael, tell me if I'm wrong, I would, what would kick his ass more than anything is keep replaying Susie Wiles' words. Keep replaying that, showing how about each and every one of them, how she talked,
we need exactly to do that. We need to stay on our own message. And our
Exactly.
message is not anti-Trump, meaning, again, Donald bad, we good. That's not going to end up winning an election any more than it did for Kamala Harris. What we need to do, as Lev was just saying, stick to affordability, stick to the illegal behavior that they're doing right now by blowing up these 19, 20-foot aluminum boats with twin outboard engines that, especially, we already know at least a handful of them were fishermen boats, right? So stick to that. Stick to the parts that show that we actually have a plan. And that's another issue that we Democrats have to ensure, that our message is different from their message. Again, if our message is just anti-Trump, that's not going to bring the moderate Republicans or the independents, the ones that we called in 2016, the silent majority. That's not going to bring them back to the party. It's just going to make them apathetic and not show up to the ballot. We right now are on a roll. Let's just all acknowledge where we are right now. We are on a roll where, for whatever the reason may be, and it's not because of people like Ken Martin, it's because of independent journalists like all four of you, all right? Independent journalists are helping to expand the base. The DNC hasn't done shit. Ken Martin, where have you seen him other than getting a text or an email from him asking for $6, $12, $20, whatever it is? Not interested. Thank you. Go fuck yourself. Have a wonderful afternoon. Not fucking interested. What we need to do is to keep our foot on the gas. We need to constantly talk about things like affordability, because whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, whether you live in rural red Republican land or deep blue Democratic land, affordability is something that every single person can relate to. When you go to the supermarket, when you can't buy your kid new shoes or new, a backpack or a lunch pail or whatever it might be, because the costs right now are higher. Tariffs are taxes, and consumers pay tariffs. Plain and simple. If we stay on our own message, this 2026 midterm is going to be exactly what we need. And most importantly, once we're successful, whether it's the House and the Senate, then the investigations open up. Lev and I talk about this every single day.
So you're saying stay on Trump, though. I mean,
it's game over.
It might be game over, but it's, go ahead, Wash. Go ahead.
No, I have to leave. So thank you all. Look, we live in interesting times. If you would have told me 5 years ago I'd be on a 10:05 or 10:06 p.m. on a Substack Live with Lev Parnas and freaking Michael Cohn and Zev, I was like, what are you talking about? And then all of us were shitting on Donald Trump's failed economic policy, but here we are. And so what I agree with you, well, let me put it this way, Zev. I agree with both you and what Michael are saying. Unfortunately, the reality is Donald Trump is the president of the United States of America. He's the commander in chief. He's the cult leader of MAGA. And as such, no matter how much we want to ignore him, we can't until he dies. I believe he will die or exit or go comatose sooner than later. Nonetheless, what he has unleashed is a right-wing authoritarian movement that is playing for all the marbles, folks. And as they're sinking, as they're desperate, they're trying to gobble up all our milkshake. Go start a war, get all the oil in Venezuela, get the minerals, all right? Screw Ukraine, help Putin, help MBS, right? A maximum transfer of wealth to the billionaires, AI, crypto, right? Just take all of our milkshake, and then right underneath what Nick was saying is Stephen Miller is there, and he's saying, okay, you go get your oil and your milkshake, and then I get to do my Alien Enemies Act, my Insurrection Act. I get to detain and deport immigrants. I get to end birthright citizenship. I get to mainstream remigration and Nazi talking points. So that's what we're dealing with, folks. And I think we have to have our eyes wide open and tackle all of it. And I agree with what Michael said. You know, you can't just say Trump is bad. It didn't work with here, Glenn Youngkin versus McAuliffe. What you have to say is Trump has failed on the economy. Trump's trade wars have failed. Trump has failed on healthcare. Trump's big, beautiful bill sucks. Look what Trump and Republicans have done on immigration. And then furthermore, just to end on this point, you have to now give Americans a vision, a better story, a different story. And this is why I think this is my parting words here. I know people say vote blue no matter who, but folks, whether you like them or not, you found a message that works. Mamdani, affordability, it works. It brings everyone to the table. You got to push the Democrats, and anyone who's listening, you got to go all in on affordability. It unites everyone. You give them a story. Lev, you know it all works as a story. This is the story. Yep. We want to get a milkshake. Well, what's the problem? Who's stopping you from drinking your milkshake? It's the bad guy. Well, who's the bad guy? The 1%.
Intolerance.
It's the 90. Well, I have my lactate pills. That's why. 99% versus the 1%. Bottom versus top, the many versus the few. Donald Trump and the GOP are helping the 1%. Affordability for all. Push the Democrats on this, folks. I never would have thought that we would have a Democratic mayor of Miami. The first non-Latino in 30 years.
30 years.
First
30
female.
Years.
And also, folks, I'll end on this point. You know what happened when people say it's impossible? Cubans in Florida went for Democrats. So I agree, we have the momentum, but we have to push. But at the same time, keep your eyes wide open. These people, they're playing for all the marbles. I heard dog whistles, Nazi talking points, white supremacist talking points. They're going for all the marbles, folks. There's more of us. We're more organized, and we have to push back, and we have to stay vigilant. That's all I got to say. But I'm sorry, I got kids and cats. Thank you all.
Cats are important.
I really appreciate it, Zeb.
The great Waj Ali, thank you so much for being here from the left hook.
But before Waj leaves, everybody make sure hit those buttons and subscribe to everybody over here, because we have a little over 2,000 people here. And what Michael says is very important. It's independent journalism. People like Zev, people like Waj, people like myself, Michael, Nick are out there, going out there. Some of us are.
I don't know about Waj. I don't know. In fact, we may send DHS to his home tonight.
You'll find
I've never heard a name like Waj.
You're gonna find lactate pills and Lego.
Waj, whatever you want to call them.
Don't break the Lego sets. I'll come collect them and keep them for you, Waj.
The lactate pills are white.
You're okay.
I want to have a special with Waj and Michael, both of them, and see who does a better Donald Trump. Waj is a pretty good one also.
Michael does it better.
Michael's been up close. Cheers, Waj. Thanks so much for being here, and have a good night. It's very great. Illy Leonard is also joining us. We have one of the guests joining us as well. So you guys, if anyone needs to drop off at any time, just let me know. But I just want to bring in Ellie as well, because Ellie, you're an Epstein aficionado.
Ellie's a guy's name. I had a guy who used to serve me my corned beef sandwich. No. His name was Ellie.
Michael's out of control.
There's like Ellie. No, I needed to add a little estrogen to the chat here.
I know. I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that. That's why I'm glad you're here, amongst other things. But I mean, this Epstein thing never came up. Obviously, it was not going to come up in his speech today. But it is for me the reason he did tonight's speech. I mean, he needed to. he needed to. The Epstein is the number one issue that has affected
Yeah.
his popularity ratings around the country. People do not love what they're finding out about Epstein. They don't like the way he's handled it, and they don't like the fact that he was involved in whatever way he was involved. It just smells bad. That to me is what really led to today's speech. But he's running scared. Did they do anything to help him in that regard?
Well, I joked today that he was either going to do something really big, like declare war on China, or he was going to do something very small, like, like lower the cost of paper clips or something, and think that it was very important. He did less than that. It was really kind of disappointing. I think he probably appeased, a group of about 50 people across the United States tonight who thought that that was the greatest speech ever. But all I could think of is if you guys have ever watched Christmas Vacation and the grandma says the grace at the table and they like push her forward and she says the Pledge of Allegiance. Like that's what I got out of that speech tonight. Like I didn't really know what was going on. It was like someone just propped him up and was like, here, read this. Cause he never, he didn't riff, which was very
He didn't
weird. That was
breathe.
kind
He
of a
just
red
did
flag
the
for
whole thing
me.
without breathing. It was just like a long,
Yeah.
long tirade. That an angry tirade as well. It looked so angry to me.
But it was
I was
just so,
surprised. Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Love.
Ellie. No. Go ahead, Ellie. I was just
It was
surprised that
just
he didn't go off script at all. Like literally at
Yeah.
first.
Well, that almost was like a red flag for me, like something actually is wrong because he didn't riff, but also it was just so basic. Like if in his head he knows that the Epstein files are coming out on Friday, like you would have think he, thrown a curveball or something, but he literally just read from the script since the beginning of the first presidency. Like
That's
there
also
was, it was
because
like
the
a,
that's also because the Epstein files are not coming out on Friday.
I think that
They're
too. Yeah, I do.
obviously
I think that
going
as well.
to do. They're
So
going to
what
You're,
should we
you're,
be
you're quite
doing?
soft there, Michael. I'm not sure why
well,
you've lost your,
well,
your audio a little bit there. Can you get closer to the microphone?
I lost my
yeah.
audio.
There you
again.
go. I can hear you.
I
You
heard
lost,
you.
We can hear
So
you.
let me be
but
crystal clear
Michael,
about
hold on a second, Michael, before you go, because there was some breaking news I don't think you guys have heard because I think you've been out because none of nobody's talking about. But did you hear that there's another wrinkle to the Epstein files that happened earlier today? Ghislaine Maxwell filed officially to get released from prison. And that triggers also another basically investigation of what part of her file could be released by the DOJ also, and that was triggered literally today. Don't forget that Todd Blanche and Maxwell's lawyer are very good friends. This is all not coincidence; it's strategical.
No.
For now they have the Clinton investigation, which is no is bullshit because even Susie Wiles said that that's not true, and so we have an investigation into Clinton, and now we have Maxwell officially asking the judge for release, which triggers other
Yeah,
things.
she's saying
The
that her
DOJ.
case can't go ahead. So she can't get a fair trial if
Correct.
these FBI
Correct.
files are released.
Correct.
She can't get a fair
Correct.
retrial,
Correct.
which she says she's due to her. I don't know why she thinks it's due to her, but that's the
But
argument she's making. It's pretty
the
ludicrous.
fact that I agree with you, it's ludicrous. But the fact that it's being done today, the day before the Epstein files are supposed to be released, adding a wrinkle, maybe
Yeah.
yes, maybe no. You could tell you can't be even more obvious to see how coordinated this is being taken place
For
by
sure.
Donald Trump and Todd Blanche.
They don't
But
want
just
this out.
know-
Michael,
but
why do you
just
think it's not
know-
coming out?
Just know that there is going to be still a significant number of documents that will be turned over on Friday. They will be very select documents that obviously do not implicate anybody that Donald Trump and this administration do not want to be implicated. There are going to be two sets of people that will be the very first group. That will be those who are part of the Democratic Party and those to whom that they do not care about. That's what's going to get dropped on Friday. And then it's going to become the fight of the century to get the rest of the documents, even though the documents that are going to be dropped on Friday will have significant redactions to them anyway, for all the reasons that Lev just said. They're now going to take what Ghislaine Maxwell said, and they're going to say, well, she has had this appeal pending now for the better part of maybe 6+ months. Even before she had met with Todd Blanche, they had the appeal on her case pending. So in order not to interfere with her appellate right, there are documents that they cannot release. And that's the argument that they're going to use. Now, we can all turn around and say, come on, this is bullshit. We knew that they were going to play some game and so on. It's a wonderful legal maneuver for them. It has weight to it. It is predicated in reality, even though the basis for why they're doing it is obviously disingenuous. That's not going to play well even to their own MAGA base.
That's the thing. That doesn't work well.
Right. That's the part that we, as Democrats, need to be very, very, very specific on. No problem. You don't want to release it? Now explain it to your MAGA base. That's
Can I ask you a question, Michael? Can I ask you a question? So do you feel like, so we have the stuff that's in the DOJ, that's the Epstein files, and then we have the estate. And what's been dropped lately has been coming from the estate. Do you feel like they're just holding and waiting for Friday, and then they're going to start dropping their own stuff? Or is that not separate? How do you view that?
Yeah, so that's a great question, by the way. I've been very disappointed with the Epstein estate in the manner to which that they've been releasing documents and photographs and so on. What are they holding on to?
Yeah.
What is the basis? What is the basis for them to hold on to anything? You know, when I was subpoenaed to testify, I turned around and I took like my entire email catalog, every document I had, and I turned it over to Congress, to the House Oversight, to the Senate Permanent Select, to the House Permanent Select Committee, to the House Judiciary, to the Senate Judiciary. I said, go fuck yourselves. Here's 1 million documents. Knock yourselves out.
Yeah, but the Democrats are trying to do this on a staged basis. They're holding some of the good stuff back, and it's the Democrats in the Oversight Committee that are holding it back. I don't think it's the Epstein estate that are doing it.
Well, because they drop. Well, I kind of wonder, because it's Darren Indyke and Richard Kahn. Like, are they on the up and up? Are they?
I mean,
does
obviously
it
not,
implicate? Does it implicate them? I would think it would implicate them because they're already in a lot of these emails.
Yeah, that would have happened long ago. I think they would have been implicated when the U.S. Virgin Islands first did their cases against them, and they.
Well, don't necessarily say that. No, I'm so sorry. You know, I don't mean to interrupt, but
no worries.
don't say that. Let's not forget, a new information comes out with even the Epstein estate documents. For example, when I watched or I saw that Stacey Plaskett, the representative from the islands, was engaging in email conversation with Jeffrey fucking Epstein during my House Oversight hearing. And do you realize that neither Republicans nor Democrats have been asking Stacey Plaskett about her relationship to Jeffrey? I don't care what Jeffrey Epstein wanted her to ask me. I'm more curious as to why she was engaging with, of all people, a convicted sex trafficker, right, who has a massive property on an island that she represents, that allegedly everybody on the island knew what was going on.
But everyone was working for Jeffrey, weren't they? I mean, at the end of the day.
Correct. In fact, we also know that Jeffrey Epstein made some pretty decent-sized donations to Stacey Plaskett's campaign, to which her response was, well, when I found out what he was doing, I didn't return the money. I donated it to a woman's charity. Yeah, when? Like last week, right? So she has some explaining to do herself. You know, that's the whole problem here. This estate release is providing very interesting and secondary type of information. But like Lev and Malcolm and I and Joe Walsh, what we say, and Don Lemon, what I say with them each and every week when I do different Substacks with my various different compadres here, we all want the entire file released, except for the names redacted of the victims, so that they don't become victimized again. We want the full entire, because, like, for example, those 19 files, the 19 photographs that were just recently, they, to me, and as a lawyer,
show absolutely zero criminality. Now, we can all make our assertions, but as you know, in law, assertions don't mean anything. I want the context of each of those photos, and the information within which to provide that context exists in a file that's sitting on Pam Bondi's desk. She opened her mouth. She offered the file. Trump signed it. It's due on the 19th. Release the files, redact the names of the victims, and let's call this a day.
You know, Michael, there is a piece here of this that I really want to ask you about, and it's related to Katie Johnson and Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. You know, Katie Johnson is the woman who alleged that Epstein and Trump raped her, and then she also alleged that she had to go to ground because she was being intimidated by Trump and Epstein, or Trump, well, by forces. Let's put it that way, not necessarily by naming anybody. You were around at the time. This was
No, I wasn't.
This
No.
is the is this
No, I was.
2016?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't there yet.
Okay.
Or that 2016, there was maybe a lawsuit.
There was a lawsuit just before the 2016. She was going to come out just before the 2016 election. Remember?
My understanding, because I never worked on the Katie Johnson case, I worked on only one case, which was the Jane Doe case. That Jane Doe is not Katie Johnson, regardless of what Tara Palmieri wants to say. She's a fool. Regardless of what she says, even Gloria Allred's daughter, Lisa Bloom, who represented Katie Johnson, said they are not the same person.
They're not the same person.
They are not. The case that I worked on, the Jane Doe case, it was a fake case that was started by somebody who managed to find a lawyer in order to file this case, despite the fact he never met the client. It was all done via the mail. And when he realized he got played, they ended up dropping the case several days later. There was no intimidation. It was merely, you do not have a client. All right. The address, the information that was given to you, had you done even a scintilla of investigatory work.
This is not Katie Johnson you're talking about.
This is not. This is Jane Doe.
Okay, but you were around during the Katie Johnson
but
thing.
I had nothing to do with it.
You were nothing there, but you were.
No, Alan Garton, my understanding, is the lawyer that handled it. I was not involved with it at all.
Is it? Would it have been common in your time with Trump for there to be that kind of intimidation that would have forced someone like Katie Johnson to not do a press conference? Is that something that it feels?
No. In fact, as I've said many times, people are like, oh, yeah, but you were involved in the Stormy Daniels matter or the Karen McDougal matter. Karen McDougal went on television and turned around and she goes, I was truly in love with Donald Trump. There was no threats against her. In fact, it was
in Katie Johnson's case, there were threats. And
I understand. Well, I'm talking about the two that I was specifically involved with. Katie Johnson was paid for by David Pecker, and they paid $150 some odd thousand to her. Stormy Daniels received $130. I never spoke to Stormy Daniels. I never emailed her, texted her. I dealt with Keith Davidson, her lawyer. There was no threats or intimidation. I can't speak for anybody else. I can only speak for myself. But there was no threat. The threat or intimidation, for example, in a catch and kill scenario with the press, was that if you publish this story, which we deem to be defamatory, we will file a lawsuit. Well, that's what lawyers do. Yeah. We file lawsuits.
This was different kinds of things. This was intimidation and threats to her family. Did you did you believe that? Did you believe her? Did you read that case? Was there any?
Oh, I've read the case.
Yeah. It's a pretty serious allegation she's making.
It most certainly is. And I'm never going to be one to turn around to say that somebody is not telling the truth. I have no knowledge within which to refute it. I also have no knowledge within which to acknowledge it. And so I sit on the sidelines and I wait for the real information to come out so that I can make my determination based upon legitimate evidence and legitimate facts.
Well, you were working with Trump during the 2008 investigation, right, into Jeffrey Epstein during that time, or were you not working with you? You were after that, okay? Did you ever hear of Jeffrey and Donald Trump getting together in any business deals or anything?
No, and I've been very clear about that. I started in 2007, in March of 2007. from the moment, and nobody spent, and Lev will acknowledge it, nobody spent more time next to Donald Trump than I. I spent more time with him than any human should spend with another human being. All right. And I can tell you from 2007 to 2018, and I am stating, and I know people get angry at me. Oh my God, why are you sticking up for Trump? This is facts. I'm not sticking up for anybody. I am not saying that he did right or he did wrong. I'm merely stating facts that I know from 2007 to 2018. As often as I was in his office, which was multiple hours per day, I never once heard Jeffrey Epstein call the office. I never heard Donald Trump on the phone with Jeffrey Epstein. I never met Jeffrey Epstein. I never spoke to Jeffrey Epstein. I never emailed him, texted him, had any communication or any dealings with him. And to the best of my knowledge, again, being in Trump's office about 5, 6, 7 hours a day, I never heard Jeffrey Epstein's name mentioned.
So when the Katie Johnson thing came up and Epstein emailed that case to Tom Barrack, who was the head of the fundraising committee of that.
I'm friendly with Tom Barrack.
Yeah. Did you hear about it at all from Tom Barrack? Did you, any of you? I mean, this was a huge emergency in the 2016 campaign. This woman was kind of come forward and declared that the candidate, the nominee, was a rapist and had raped her.
Yeah, my understanding is that case got turned over to Alan Garten and then maybe even to outside counsel, but I was not involved in that specific matter.
Never came up during that whole time you were there during the election campaign.
Not to me.
And any other? He was not at all concerned when Epstein was first charged, which would have been when you were with him, because in 2008.
Like I said,
nothing never came up.
No comment. And it's so unusual considering I spoke to him about everything. And I mean, I knew obviously because I was involved in the house on South Ocean Drive, the one that really caused the rift between he and Jeffrey Epstein.
You were involved in that?
Yes, I was. In fact, Michael Wolff gave me information that even after all these years, I did not know. So
what was your involvement in that? I'm just curious because that's really interesting that you were involved in the purchase of that house.
Not the purchase, the sale.
The sale, which
the sale, I wasn't working for Trump at the time that this took place.
So the sale was to Rybolovlev, right?
Dmitry Rybolovlev.
Yeah, that's for an extraordinary amount, $95 million or something like that. As opposed to
is it an extraordinary amount? Not for South Ocean Drive. You had something like 300 feet of oceanfront property, something like it was an extraordinarily, large parcel with massive beach rights and so on. Let me be clear, and I say this all the time. Number one, it did not sell for $100 million. It sold for 95. In fact, the property was not sold as an individual to an individual, meaning Donald Trump to Dmitry Rybolovlev. Dmitry Rybolovlev came through a broker that was affiliated to Sotheby's. And rest assured, Trump is not given 5% as a commission to somebody on an arm's length transaction between himself and somebody else. It was completely out of the blue. He had sat with that property. He gave it to this real estate agent to sell it. They never expected this amount of money, even though, mind you, he put it on the market. I think it was on the market for about $120 million.
Who did?
Rybolovlev, came in at 95. We took it. My involvement was to review the sale agreements and to ensure that the funds were actually received, before which we signed over the final transfer documents.
I mean, Jeffrey Epstein in his emails to Michael Wolff basically says that this is money laundering. He said it was Russian money laundering. He says, how else would that sale have taken place?
Through bank transfer and bank wires. All right. You don't do money laundering through bank transfers and bank wires.
Well, you are if you're buying a property for $95 million when the market is at its tanking, and you're buying the most expensive property.
Well, actually, no. We got to be fair on this one too. The market didn't tank until about 8-9 days later, and then it tanked. He literally got incredibly lucky that it closed when it did. because the market turned a major turn about 9 days later.
Yeah. I mean, there is, the feeling amongst many people who've looked at this is that is the Russians bailing Donald Trump out. It's just,
What bail him out? He didn't have a mortgage on the property. He owned it.
yeah, but if you're
It's not like he
transferring,
bailed him out. He had, listen, let's be clear about something too. All right. Was Donald Trump worth $9 billion like he wanted us to say
No.
in his personal financial or his statement of financial worth? The answer is no. Was he worth $1.5 billion, $1.6 billion? Abso-fucking-lutely. From his buildings, whether it was the Avenue of the Americas all the way to the San Francisco Bank of America building, to 40 Wall Street, to his other holdings and properties, his commercial leases. Yes, he was worth what he was worth, and he did not have massive debt on the property. That's just factually accurate. So the fact that you thought that, or anybody thinks that he needed the additional, money from this Rybolovlev property, he held that property for about 2.5 years before it ultimately sold.
Trump did. Trump held it for 2.5 years. That's true.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about Bill Pulte's father. Do you know Bill Pulte's father?
I know who Pulte is. I've never met him.
Because he was also involved in this deal, right? And Jeffrey Epstein alleged that Bill Pulte's dad was like a straw horse bidder in the original sale of this house that Donald Trump won.
I wouldn't know. I wasn't involved at the time of the sale. I was only at the purchase. I was only involved in the sale. Bill Pulte's father was not involved in the sale. It was done through Sotheby's International Realty, and it was done by a very nice woman. She must have been in her late 70s, and I assure you, as we all must acknowledge, Donald Trump would not give somebody a 5% commission on a deal that he put together. It just goes against his DNA.
Yeah, but it's also really unusual for them to be getting this kind of price. So the guy never lived in the house. Rybolovlev never lived in it. He just basically...
Remember, Rybolovlev, Lev, jump in here for a second. Rybolovlev is a major billionaire who is in the urea business. He was in fertilizer.
Potash.
Right. He was in this mess. He was insanely wealthy. He was buying this house for his daughter, the same way he bought apartment for like $70 million for his daughter as well. The money didn't matter to him. It was the location and it was the property itself.
But then he doesn't do anything with it. He sells it off.
What he did is he tore
it down and they just subdivided it.
He rebuilt it.
Yeah.
And the daughter lived in it.
Did she live in it?
Yes, she did. All right. This is the problem.
Yeah.
All right. Donald Trump is many things, but not every single transaction or every single allegation against him is true or legitimate. Now, I'm not going to turn around and say that there aren't other things that, people are talking about, like his relationship with Epstein and so on. I don't know them to be factually right or factually wrong. I do know that the answers exist in a file that's sitting on Pam Bondi's desk, but not every single allegation against Donald Trump, as much as people want it to be, is accurate. Like, for example, this real estate transaction. How did Donald Trump buy, for example, 40 Wall Street for $1 million? How did he buy that? How did he buy Mar-a-Lago, which was the private residence of the richest person in the country at the time, Marjorie Merriweather Post, for something like $6.8 million? How many people that are with us right now wouldn't go out and find $6.8 million to buy the Marjorie Merriweather Post Mar-a-Lago?
Yeah, but you're diluting the subject matter here, because really what we're talking about is there's a pattern of Russian investment into the president's, into Donald Trump's world, whether it's through his condos, whether it's through the bailout that he got after 1996. There's just a long list of these things. You can't ignore it.
Hold on. Facts matter.
Yeah, facts matter.
Okay? Again, I'm not here to defend him. I'm here to correct you with improper and erroneous statements.
Okay.
Yes, some Russians bought Trump condominiums. Let me be very, very clear to you. The
Many.
condominiums are not owned by Donald Trump. Condo is a fee simple absolute that you transfer lot and block number title to the individual purchaser. Were there Russians who bought? Absolutely. For example, my father in law, who's not Russian, he's Ukrainian. All right. The same took place at Trump Tower. No different than it took place at Zeckendorf buildings or at, at Witkoff buildings. There are Russians like Lev that live in America, right? They're Russian Americans. They're entitled to buy a condominium.
There's also a lot of laundering through those condos. There was obviously a lot of
Eric Trump made a statement which was as stupid as he is. All right. Rest assured, there is not. How about just turning around and saying, because at one point in time at Trump Tower, where Trump lives, you had Adnan Khashoggi. Why are we not turning around and saying that Donald Trump was a nuclear arms dealer as well? Right.
Well, he was certainly part of that network. So was Jeffrey Epstein part of that network. So you can't say that he wasn't. Adnan Khashoggi worked with Jeffrey Epstein for a long period of time.
And what you're doing is you're sidetracking.
I'm not sidetracking the situation.
You're sidetracking the American people from the reality that is existing that we need to stay focused on, which is affordability and healthcare and
100%. But this guy's also
women's rights and all of these other things.
This guy's also bought and paid for by Putin, and it's hard to see otherwise. It's hard to see what's going on in the foreign policy of this government, the national strategic document that he put out last week. I mean, everything points to the same direction, that Putin basically controls Donald Trump for whatever reason.
Putin doesn't control Donald Trump.
Well, he's maneuvering around Donald Trump to get him to do what he wants.
Donald Trump is enamored by authoritarians. Let's just get it straight. He is enamored by authoritarians the same way he sat there. I thought he was going to hug, and make out with Mohammed bin Salman, for God's sakes.
He loves money. Of course he's going to do that, but that's not...
But the 10 minutes in the Beast alone, you can't explain 10 minutes in the Beast alone in Alaska as anything other than receiving orders from Putin or getting a complete private conversation that is totally off the record. There's no transcripts. There was no translators that we knew of. How the fuck does Donald Trump know the Russian to get the information?
Or you mean like the conversation that took place in Helsinki?
Yeah,
right?
They're all the same conversation, the same
all
thing.
Those things that points because to Trump he is a controlled and puppet of Putin at this point.
He operates like a mob boss. He learned very well from Roy Cohn. But I want
isn't that the whole thing of all of this too? It is the Russian mob that is doing this. Yeah. Israel was taken over by Russian mobsters and a Russian mob state of Jewish Israeli men from Russian Israelis who became or are mobsters, and the American mobsters that are from Russia. I hate to say it, but using Lev as an example of someone who is not dirty early on for Russians is a bad example because Lev was dirty for a long time. Like I don't shit on you, Lev, but like,
but I think you guys are. I think you guys are completely off funnel because the Russians that were coming in, they were money laundering through Trump Towers and Witkoff Towers. They were coming in. These are not Russians that live in America. These are not Russians that were buying towers. And Michael, with all due respect, your father, yes, there were Russians that live in America that were buying apartments. But in the 90s, the Russians, there were money that was coming in from Russia, that when the fall of the Soviet Union, they were coming in and buying 40, 30 apartments at a time. And that's what Zev is talking about, the money laundering.
If you're talking about 1990, at the time, I was still in law school. So
I'm talking about the 90s. I'm talking about the 90s. No, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about what happened in the 90s when the fall of the Russian. That's when, and that is extreme. I think that's what Zev and Nick are talking about. There was a lot of Trump Towers was considered money laundry central. Witkoff also was involved in that. Witkoff co-signed on one of Taiwan chicks or Anatoly, what's his name? I forgot his last name. On one of Golubchik Golubchik, thank you, on one of his apartments because of Trump. Because after Golubchik got indicted, and Witkoff was asked, why would you sign him? He said, I don't know the guy. I did a friend a favor. And most of these were all going through Trump Tower at the time. Even when they started doing it here in Miami, I remember moving down to when Desert started renting Trump's
Sure.
name and started doing it. I mean, they were coming in here literally. It was like the stock market. They were raising the prices by buying up themselves because they needed to get that money out of there, and they didn't care what price they were buying it.
Well, I mean, for
Apartments here.
example, in all fairness, the Chinese did the exact same thing. Witkoff was involved with the guy from the China Investment Bank.
Yeah, but are you saying are you saying that Donald Trump is not a part of the Russian organized crime network? You're saying that he's not part of
Absolutely
it?
not.
He's not. I mean, come on.
He's absolutely not part of the Russian mob.
Has not benefited from
How
money
can
from
we
Russia.
believe that with all of this
By the
evidence
way, are you
around,
saying
though?
did he benefit from Russian mob money? If they bought an apartment, sure.
Or if they laundered money
Every
through his
single real
casinos?
estate developer in New York and Florida and elsewhere, they all were buying, they were all selling to whoever the person is that's showing up to buy the property.
I
No
get that.
different than, is Mercedes responsible because the guy came in and bought a vehicle who happens to be a Russian
You sound
mob?
like you're still defending him. You sound like
I'm
you're still
not
in his.
defending him. I'm trying to put you onto the right path.
Well, the
Which
right
is,
path is that he
what
obviously.
you're doing is you're conflating stupidity. Stop.
I'm not
Stop.
complaining
Right?
stupidity.
You are
I'm
conflating
this is
stupidity.
factual
It's an
record.
idiot. It's not factual. It's factual in your mind. All right.
That
That's
what?
the
That he
bottom
lost
line.
his
What
that he
you're
was
doing is
under
you are
investigation for
ignoring-
money laundering by the
ignoring the
New Jersey
reality.
Atlantic
You're
City.
ignoring the reality that no one gives two shits about who he sold an apartment to in
Yes, they
1990.
do. Yes, they give a
Only
shit,
you
two
do,
shits
because
about that. Because if
only
he's
you do,
owned
because
by the
you think
Russians,
that what it does. No, what you do is you think that what this does is it gives some moral superiority. We're not able to afford shit anymore. All they talk about is the fact that oil is 30 cents less a gallon and that you could buy your eggs cheaper when people can't afford health care. They can't afford to live. They can't afford a decent wage. That's what's going to win us the election.
this is not. We're not sitting in an election
the
strategy
1990s.
session here. We're not sitting in an election strategy session here. We're having a conversation after the president of the United States just did a speech to the nation, and his credibility is on the line. And when you look at his relationship with Putin, and you look at his
He
relationship
doesn't
with
have a relationship with Putin.
he has a relationship with somebody who's giving him Putin's marching orders. If he's not, then Witkoff is. Somebody's going in there and delivering everything that Putin wants to him on a silver platter. Somebody's doing it.
That's true. That's true. Where Putin is determining he wants this 20-point. That was written by Putin's people. Am I wrong, Lev? Right?
No, that
There's
was Putin.
28-point plan.
That Putin.
It's a 28-point plan.
Let me maybe stop all
Yeah.
because when it comes to this, I think I have a lot more knowledge and let me tell you. So when you guys are talking about yes, Michael, I have to be very clear. Trump right now with what everything he's doing with Ukraine, and we speak about all the time, he is definitely complicit to Putin. Now, is he taking orders from Putin? I think this is where they're going. No, Trump is not sitting there. Nick, with all due respect, he did not get in the car and got orders from Putin. That's also not the case that works. What is happening is that the relation between Kirill Dmitriev that was sent by Putin in 2017 to start off with Kushner and Witkoff, who was basically his Kushner's right hand at the time in the first administration. Since then, that relationship has transpired and grown. When the Epstein files came out, and when Trump realized through Witkoff and through Kirill Dmitriev, and that is why you do not see Marco Rubio or anybody that Trump doesn't trust 100% dealing with Putin, because what was told to him is that there was information that was over the 40 years that they were tracking Donald Trump. Now, I've been working on the story for a while, and I'm going to be breaking a lot of news. Epstein was not the only one that was giving the Russians informations about Donald Trump. There was a lot of different powerful people that were willingly and unwillingly giving information. There was a lot of honeypot, when you call honeypot women, that were in the 90s and 2000 coming from Russia, that are currently still married to some of these individuals, currently still
Yep.
going out with them,
Steve
mistresses,
Bannon, Paul
and so.
Manafort.
Exactly. I mean, you got, Steve Bannon himself was dealing with the Russians. So Trump, there's a lot of connection here. And is Trump pissed off and does not? That's why you see Trump does not want to deal with Putin. He's pissed off at what Putin's making him do, but he also understands that the other thing that, like we spoke with Zev and we talk about the Epstein files, is there's something very interesting that you never hear. You hear about the Democrats, you hear about all of these different people, you hear about Prince Andrew, but you don't hear about Russian oligarchs, which is an impossibility because that was the world that was ran into, and they were constantly throwing on these underage parties. I mean, look at in Turkey, you had that. Remember the boat that was caught in Turkey by what's his name?
Yep.
Mishkevich, which actually, as crazy as it was at Trump's inauguration in the first, what's it called, 2016. When I saw him there, I have a picture standing with Mishkevich in Trump's 2006 inauguration. So yes, this they are. It is a lot more complicated than just black and white. Trump is involved. He's not a Russian mobster. He's not Russian to begin with. He's not part of the Russian mob. He's not working for the KGB, but he is compromised. He is complicit. He is, being worked over by the Russians
Lev,
to
can
be
I just
to do.
can I give you the
Yeah,
term Malcolm used it?
yeah.
He was to them a useful idiot.
That was that, but I think that grew
More than a useful idiot. I mean,
I
No,
think that
he
grew
was a
more.
useful idiot.
when he first visited to Moscow in what was it, 96, or is it, yeah, the first one in 1987. Then he came back for a second time with what's his name, the other Epstein client. I'm going to lose the name right now, but it's going to come to me. But he came back. He was bankrupt at the time. He went there. He met with all these mobsters in the Kremlin, and then he got a sudden rebound in his fortune. He suddenly came back and he was $450 million richer, having been bankrupt before, and now suddenly he was in the Fortune 500 again, or the 400. This is a guy who somehow miraculously survived bankruptcy after bankruptcy with Russian bailout money. Do you think that's the kind of thing that just happens to useful idiots, or do you think it's the kind of thing that happens to someone who's being groomed to do exactly what he's been doing, which is, to assuming power?
And
Can
I'll
I
say this
ask?
real
Can
quick
I ask
before I
Alex?
have to go
Okay.
in
Go
a
ahead.
second.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Nick. Go ahead, Nick, brother. I want to ask Alex a
Um,
question afterwards. Go ahead, Nick.
oh, okay. Sorry. As someone who's like learned how to do intelligence collection and intelligence gathering for human intel as in the army, like it doesn't matter if you're witting or unwitting. If you get the shit done,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter. You're still an asset. You're still an agent. You're
Correct.
still an
Correct.
asset of
An
some
asset.
sort. A witting asset or an unwitting asset is still an asset.
Correct.
And that at this point, like, does it matter if he was witting? No, because he's done the damage. And Russia told us 40 years ago that they were going to do this. We were just too fucking arrogant as a country to believe that Russia could try and undermine our nation without a single shot fired. And this is what they have been working towards.
Yeah.
Whether Donald Trump knew it or not, it doesn't matter. He allowed it to happen, and nobody around him who did know that it was happening to him stopped it in the end. Like nobody has been
100%.
able to stop him.
They hit the
And
jackpot with him. You're 100% right,
mhm,
Nick.
yeah,
He was one
so
of many, and with him, they hit the jackpot. You're
yeah,
100%
and they
right.
trained him well. A dumb dog can be trained really well, or a dumb person can be trained with food and repeated treats over and over again. And for Donald Trump, that could have been the Epstein file, anything in the Epstein files, or the money, or just the fame and the accolades, whatever it was for him.
Mm-hmm.
They hit his honeypot and said,
Yeah.
here, we're gonna Pavlov's dog you every time you do something we want. We're gonna give you $1 million, or we're gonna give you a underage girl, or we're gonna give you a free trip, or we're gonna give you a business dealing or a new hotel or something like that. Like, I'm not saying that's how it's all done, but that's part of it. Is he was bought off, witting or unwitting, and we have to acknowledge we are willing to acknowledge a lot of that.
And Russia's pretty good at this stuff.
Well, that's
Yeah,
part of
they're
the
very
KGB.
good at
I mean,
this.
well, absolutely, that's part of what KGB, all intelligence agencies do. They try to find what Trump fits the perfect mold. We speak about that with Malcolm Nance all the time. He's somebody that is a narcissist, somebody that is willing to cross the line, willing to break the law, is power hungry and money hungry. Those facts are a perfect fit for, and he's powerful, and he visits and runs in very powerful circles. That's the perfect target for any asset. They would never think that he's. I mean, any intelligence service making it to the White House was just like winning the
It
big
was
prize.
aspirational.
It was, yeah,
That's the mega ball.
the mega,
Right?
exactly,
Yeah,
the
they
mega
hit the
ball.
jackpot on
At the
that.
jackpot. Yeah, they never thought that, but that you're 100%.
Yeah.
But Nick, go ahead. Before you finish, I want to ask Elle also some question, because she's done some incredible work, and I want to ask her some, because she's been digging into these emails, and I know so many of them. I can't believe that you're still up and you can see straight out,
Don't forget
because I
someone
know
else waiting
she's
in the
been
wings
Drink a
too.
lot of coffee. A lot of
a
coffee.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
What I wanted to ask you, because the two, and this is part of some of the things I'm looking that has to do with Zev's questions and what Michael's talking about, what Trump's complicity in. The emails that really touched me was the email right before Helsinki, when that we seen that Epstein was talking with an ambassador about how he and Victor Churkin had this long relationship, how he's given all this information to Victor Churkin, and then also another email where he's speaking with his brother Mark, talking about that whole Bubba thing. But in that same email, everybody concentrated on Bubba, but in that email, he's also speaking with Mark, saying, do you think Bannon handed over to the Russians the information? We know his relationship with Bannon was very close at the time. So have you seen any more emails or anything with others, or more where information was given over to either Victor Churkin, any of the Russians, or Bannon, or any of that stuff more leading
He
to it?
he talks directly about Putin. I mean, he talks about meeting with Putin's people. He talks about meeting with Putin. I don't know if he ever actually did meet with Putin. He's involved with things that you would think a civilian wouldn't be involved in, as far as like global finance and global leadership. And then as he becomes closer friends, and I was talking earlier about this with Waj, but like there was a power dynamic shift between Bannon and Epstein, where at first Bannon was really looking up to Epstein and wanting to get closer to him because he thought he was involved in CIA and intelligence, and Bannon really wanted to get back in the White House and work for the CIA. And then it kind of shifted as Epstein became more isolated and he knew he was under surveillance, and things were kind of going downhill for him. And then Bannon started to grow and create this whole new political image for himself because he was out of the White House. And it was as if Epstein was kind of like counseling him and advising him on what to say to these global leaders, and that included Putin. He was talking about Putin and meeting with Putin's people. So there was a lot of discussion of Russia. There was a lot of discussion of the Crown Prince. He was in there all over the place. There was just all these different people that you would think he shouldn't be involved with. Like he didn't work for the White House. He didn't work for the government or the administration. And yet he was meeting and connecting all these people who were then asking him, like it was like the vice chair of finance of China is asking Epstein how to get a loan from the US. Like it's just all this really weird stuff that isn't his job and shouldn't be his job, that should be going through the government. So Putin was part of that. That was all included in that. He definitely was if not meeting with him, he was meeting with intermediaries who were then passing the information to Putin, and then vice versa.
There are more emails with conversation
Yeah.
besides those two.
Yeah.
I would love to maybe get together, or when you have a chance, maybe me and you could talk, because I'm putting to right now with a lot of my sources behind the scenes. That's some of the things that I'm like now working on. Besides Epstein, there's some other people in Trump's inner circle that, like Nick said, willingly or unwillingly, but through the years, were giving very delicate information, especially when he became president. Prior to when he became president, they were all in the mix. But when he became president, that whole everything shifted very hard, and that's why, especially right around the 2017, 18, that's what I'm hearing.
Well, let's not forget, it's not just Donald Trump when he became president, right? Obviously, when Joe Biden became president, the same Russian tactic, the same KGB tactic, find the weak link, and infiltrate as best as you can the weak link in order to generate a benefit for Putin, for Russia, right? Did they not do the same thing, or at least try to do that with Hunter?
They definitely tried. I mean, they
I
just
didn't
got
say that they
lucky.
succeeded. I'm just
They did
saying
no, they did
tried.
succeed. No, I think they succeeded. I think they succeeded because they tore the country apart. But I think they were able to succeed is because they had. I don't think nobody else except for Donald Trump would have got obsessed and allowed them to do it. Because if you think about it, I mean, we were literally pushing Russian disinformation. We had congressmen and senators that knew that they were
Sure.
coming from Andre Deerkach. Ron Johnson was taking pictures with them. Rudy went to Ukraine. I mean, it was just that. I think that was just, again, even in that case, I just from remembering and dealing, everybody was just amazed to the what degree Trump was allowing certain things, because nobody was used to, prior to Trump, everybody was used to America. Like, you can't get, like, you have to be like this, so strict. Like, when you walk into the embassy, and all of that somehow like changed and just became like the Wild West for those 4 years. It was, even like I sometimes sit back and just, there's a lot of things that I come back to me even now that it was just crazy to think back of how that push of pure Russian disinformation. How I remember sitting with John Solomon in the and Victoria Tunzing and Rudy, literally like it would be like a 6:30 in the evening on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and he would get off the phone with Hannity and say, "We need we need something really breaking for Trump. Could call some of your connections." I'd call Ukraine, literally get something sent over in Russian or Ukrainian. We'd get it
Yep.
transferred. No
Yeah,
vetting, no
it's just
vetting,
Russian
no.
disinformation, right? I mean,
Right.
obviously,
There was no vetting, nothing.
yeah.
We just literally sent it to Hannity, and that night Hannity was like, "We got some breaking information about Joe Biden. Here it comes."
But this is
And
a
it
serious
was
thing that you're
amazing to
saying. I
know.
mean, when you're talking about you passing on information to a Fox News anchor who happens to be great friends with Donald Trump, who has daily consultations with Donald Trump, and you're feeding Russian propaganda
Yeah.
directly to Sean Hannity. I mean, there is no mask anymore that can be pulled off anymore. We know that Donald Trump is so connected to Russia. He's so installed by Russia that it's hard to
See, the
imagine
thing,
otherwise.
but I'll tell you, the whole thing's of back then. See, Michael's 100% right, because back then he did not know all the dirt that Russia had on him. Trump found
Yes.
out about. He didn't. He found out about. I'm telling you, he found out about this literally around recently, not too long ago, with Kushner and Witkoff and Kirill Dmitriev in certain conversations that flipped Trump around completely. Because prior to this, the Russians had him thinking that he had, like, he could control Putin, like
Yeah.
he had a relationship with
Yes.
Putin, like he did, until he was Witkoff came and basically told them that, well, they have more than that, and this is how we. So it became more than just money and power. It also, and now is because of, again, I don't know what the information is exactly in the Epstein files that Trump is trying to hide, or what the Russians have on them. That's why we all talk about release the files. We need to see everything. But I know that it's connected to financial and connected also what I heard from a very close source,
Mhm.
that is the fear that he's worried about is the link will that he will never be able to change the history. He will always go down as a Russian asset,
Yeah.
which he believes he was. Like Michael says, he doesn't think he was working for the Russians all these years when he, like Zev and El agree, when he really was. You know what I'm saying
He
to you,
was.
doing
He
this
was,
stuff.
whether
Yeah,
you knew it or
I
not.
agree. No, no,
And
I agree with you. He
yeah,
was 100%. But
yeah.
I'm just saying to you, but in his mind, he didn't realize it until recently, and that's why you're seeing Witkoff go down 7 times. I mean, it's unheard of to have somebody. I mean,
Without the Secretary of State,
Without,
you got
not even once. Not even
you got
once.
duo of of dumb shittery,
yeah,
right, going down there and trying. I mean, between Kushner and Witkoff, really. I
yeah.
mean,
It's
this is
stunning. It's
this
stunning that that's the
duo.
way we've got
It is
here.
stunning. It's the duo of stupidity going down there in order to try to outsmart the KGB. Good freaking luck on that one.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You guys have been really patient and been here all night long, and I'm thrilled you're here. I've also got one other person I want to join, but if anyone does need to leave,
Well, I'm gonna
I
jump.
do.
I
Yeah,
understand.
I'm
I also
sorry.
have to
Thank you,
go.
guys.
My
You've been
Oh
amazing.
no, we're leaving.
Everyone needs to subscribe to you, all these three people, because they're all fantastic.
Thanks, guys.
And Ellie Leonard is one of those people from the Panicked Writer. Fantastic work that she's been
I
doing
love the
lately.
panic, by the
good.
way.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Thank you.
awesome.
Ali,
Thank you.
Ali,
It was
incredible
nice
work.
to meet you,
Definitely.
Michael.
The same. We'll stay in touch too.
Yeah, for sure.
And I definitely, Ali, let's get in touch
Yeah.
of
I
when
put
we,
my
because
I put my
DM
email in
me,
the chat, so if you wanna reach out, then I can.
or just DM me or whatever. But
Okay.
definitely,
All
I'll
right.
get in
Cool.
I
touch
can
with
pass on
you.
your details as well.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Zev could
Yeah.
because I think we could do some work together and do a breaking story all together, and some of the stuff I'm
Look,
working on.
can I just say one
because
thing before I
Yeah,
split?
of course,
And
Michael. Go ahead.
the most important thing that we have to remember is we are about 1 year now and counting down to the 2026 midterm elections. We can have all the debates here about what a piece of shit the guy is, that every single time he breathes, he should, he's violating the law or whatever your animus is, to the extent, if it's a 5, a 6, a 9, or a 12, it makes no difference to me. My only thing that I try to remind people is, facts actually matter when they release those Epstein files. And I believe ultimately they will be released. It may take longer than we all want, but they will be released, especially and if we end up winning the midterm elections to the extent that we do, they will be released and the investigations will turn around and corroborate the statements, for example, that I'm making, or it will refute the statements that I'm making. And then I will say, holy shit, I was wrong. Or I will wait to hear from others in turn and say, holy shit, you were right. I apologize. Though most people never do that. Like, for example, the Prague bullshit story on me, right? I have not received a single apology from not a single journalist regarding the allegations I was in Prague. I've never been. I want to go. I hear it's beautiful, but I've just never been. And that stupid story stuck around for over 6 years. My point being, we need to stay focused. I don't know how many times I'm going to say, if we are going to win, I don't want to see another event like what happened with Kamala Harris. Lev and I used to talk about this all the time. Oh my God, the momentum. Everybody's saying the momentum, the momentum, the momentum. I remember Lev saying to me, she's going to lose. She's going to lose. I remember him calling it out before anybody else. He said, she's going to lose. I said, how do you say that? He goes, that the momentum that you're talking about is an isolated, limited momentum. And he goes, don't underestimate the other guy's desire to win. And you know what? That's the point that I take to heart every single day. And whenever on our Thursdays between Malcolm, Lev, myself, we go deep into it. We can never take our foot off the gas. Apathy will end up, which is what cost Kamala Harris the election, apathy. When you have 70 million Americans that don't even think it's necessary to vote, you have a real problem in the country. All right. We need to stay focused. We need to constantly grow the community, whether it's Ellie, whether it's Nick, whether it's Lev, whether it's myself, whether it's Zev, or whoever it might be. It doesn't make a difference. Join the community, stay focused, stay angry, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay factually accurate.
Thank you, Michael Cohen. You great way to end the show, and I really appreciate your honesty throughout all of this and your forthrightness. Everyone should follow Michael. He's doing incredible work on the side of the Democrats right now.
By the way, nothing for nothing. Just so you know, I've been a Democrat my whole life. Thank you very much.
I'm glad you've been a Democrat. I'm glad you're on the right side as well right now. So we appreciate everything you're doing. This is a fight where we all have to be allies, because this is a big fight up ahead of us, especially in this next election. And we certainly need leadership that understands that. So Michael Cohen, follow him. Lev Parnas from Lev Remembers, who's is one of the best followers on Substack, without a doubt. Everyone should follow him. Ellie Leonard from the Panicked Writer. Thank you for being here tonight. I've got one other guest that I'm bringing in after that, but I want to thank you all for this very long.
I wish everybody a great night. Ellie, Lev.
Good night, guys.
Good night. See you
Nice to meet you.
tomorrow, Michael. I want to say, everybody, Zev, thank you so much for having this roundtable. Ellie, thank you for coming. I think this was great. I think we had an incredible, great conversation. We have over 3,000 people right now at 10 o'clock at night watching, which is incredible, which is great. I just want to tell each and every one of you out there, this is real independent journalism. You saw it here. Zev, asked the tough questions. We asked to answer the questions. We go into facts. There's no sugarcoating here. You get it live until, because the objective is to bring you guys the right information from the inside, so this way we could go out there and save our democracy. So folks, thank you so much for staying with us. Tomorrow's a big day. We have a lot of more news that's breaking. The Epstein files on Friday. So stay tuned. Big day. Zev, thanks for having me. Good night, my brother. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Cheers. Have a great one. Thank you, Lev. Lev Parnas from Lev Remembers. I'm going to just bring in one other guest, because she has been waiting in the wings for a little too long. And I apologize to you, T, from This Will Hold. I hate leaving you behind the scenes, but I only got a limit of 5 people. And that conversation went just very, very long. So I apologize.
It did. It went long, but it was informative. And it's good to hear everybody else's take on things, honestly, because I would not have pegged Cohen for being one to think that Trump honestly won the election, especially considering,
it's so interesting to me, because people are influenced, and he was in that machine, whether he acknowledges it or not. He was in that machine of Russian money and Russian power and all sorts of manipulation. And he might not believe some of the stuff that happened, but it still happened. He's a great sport for coming on and defending it. And really, what matters now is that he's fighting for Democrats, and he's thinking about how Democrats can win, and that's so important. Which brings us to what you've been doing at This Will Hold. You've been uncovering so many interesting facets about what happened in the election in 2024 that you think is, reflects on an election that wasn't fair and wasn't really won by Donald Trump.
And to his point, when he made that comment, don't underestimate, I wrote it down, the other guy's desire to win. And I thought the other guy's willingness to cheat to win.
Yes, well, that's really maybe what happened.
88 felony counts and treason charges and so many other things. And is he in the Russian mob? Maybe not, but is he a Russian asset? Absolutely. And for that property in Florida, when Dimitri bought it at 40+ million over, it was way overvalued at the time. So that amount alone was eye-raising, and take that as someone who's, as a number cruncher. And then beyond that, when he sold it, he didn't have his daughter in there. He demolished the property.
I think he demolished it. I don't think his daughter lived in this split property. And then I think he sold the other half as well to another friend of Donald Trump's for $95 million as well, which didn't make any sense to anybody. I don't, look, it's interesting. He was in that transaction. Maybe he's just, doing what he needs to do to defend that transaction. But he's a good sport for coming on and explaining that. Jack Smith was there today at Capitol Hill saying that 2020, Donald Trump tried to steal that election. He said he had beyond reasonable doubt evidence that that's what he did. It's the same thing that you're saying happened in 2024, that election was also stolen. So you got, Para now of 2020, him trying to steal the election, which we knew, but, good to hear from Jack Smith. You're saying the same thing at This Will Hold. Right. As we head into another election, which may be, so instrumental to the future of this country, how can we ensure
assuming that we're going to have midterms, right? We're just living
possible.
under the assumption that those are going to occur, considering everything, that's festering down, near Venezuela. Is he going to create a wartime situation? What's he going to do? But beyond that, I think what people are doing is giving Donald Trump too much credit and not understanding the layers beneath what's happening here. And that is this very long-term play that really we over at the Common Coalition describe as like a seven-headed hydra. And that is the Heritage Foundation, the Federalist Society, that is Mitch McConnell teaming up with Leonard Leo. It's Fox News, it's Murdoch, it's all of them for decades now, getting the courts situated where they wanted them so that when they could get Trump into position, they could make it so that the billionaires end up on top. And it's not the first time we've been here. I mean, they made a play back in 1933. We've talked about that before, and we made it through. And that's my main message to everyone, is to hold on to your hope, because we've been here before. And there are those of us that are just not going to let this happen. We're just not. We're going to get louder and louder until millions of Americans understand what's happening, and we're going to handle the business. But that being said, if you read Project 2025, it says right there in the introduction that we are not capable of making good decisions, and we need a ruling elite. Ruling elite. They think they are the ruling elite. And so now that they've got all these judges positioned and the Supreme Court, they're doing it. They're doing everything they can. They want to get rid of 100 million people. Well, how do you do that? You take out all of the Black and brown people that you can, and then you cut medical. And when you cut medical, all the people that can't afford insurance, they're one prescription away from a death sentence.
Yeah.
That's how you cut
300,000 Black women are unemployed now in this one year. Again, another way of saying to people, you're eliminating a certain type of person. You're causing incredible hardship in communities that can't fund themselves. They can't invest in their communities by supporting local businesses. That in turn creates more downward pressure. On top of that, you've got these ACA cuts that are coming, so people can't afford medical care. More medical bankruptcies happen. Just you create a spiral for an entire community that on a basis of race and a basis on creating the so-called elite that they're trying to do. But that elite really is about disenfranchising people. It's about taking away the vote. And they have clearly done some really unusual things in 24 in that election. Whatever Elon Musk was doing smells to high heaven. And the fact that he was allowed to do that afterwards inside the government with Doge, with the chief of staff saying that he is microdosing on ketamine while making decisions about people's lives. I mean, it's if the guy's high on ketamine, he should not be making decisions on whether people in Africa are getting AIDS treatments or not. That is not how this works. And if that's the elite that they're giving us,
it eliminated our soft power and greatly weakened our stance throughout the world, because everybody else steps in to be the ones to give that aid now. So, we just handed China our soft power on a platter. And we were at one point, it's been a while, looked at, from the world standpoint as that, shining light on the hill. And we're not that anymore. I mean, Denmark has just, said we're a threat. And look
Europe
at what
says Europe is viewing us as a threat, and so is Canada. That's why they're building a 300,000 volunteer army. The world is changing, and it's all because of Donald Trump.
So tonight's I think was just all these guys propping him up. Get out there, say something. It's clear he's unwell. I wrote a couple of weeks ago, I try to do a what went right this week positive newsletter. And there's been some breakthroughs in Alzheimer's, and there is a specific drug on the market now that has got, some of the protocols are sort of what we're seeing him doing. And then on top of that, there's a semaglutide aspect, out there for Alzheimer's as well. And if you've noticed, he's lost a lot of weight. So I think, and then just the cruelty and some of the things that he says from a psychological standpoint, if you've been around folks with Alzheimer's as they get towards the end, they can get very, very mean. And so I think we're just seeing all of this coming out.
It's hard to tell whether it's Alzheimer's, whether it's dementia. Michael says he hasn't got it, either of these things. Who knows? But he's had 3 MRIs, which seem to indicate that
fusions clearly. What are the marks on his hands? He's not falling downstairs and whacking his hand around. So something's happening there. But
T, I want to
as
just commend your work, and because I've got to wrap this up because it's been a long, long,
yeah,
long day.
it's
And I
late.
so apologize
Yep.
for keeping waiting for so long.
So
Let me just remind everybody of the incredible work that you're doing with this Common Coalition at This Will Hold, because what you're doing is you're taking a look at the 24 elections with an analytical eye, and you're exploring every possibility as to how that election may have been manipulated, the results may have been manipulated. I think a lot of us had a feeling on that day that something was really weird that went on. That
yeah,
as the day went on, as the results came out, that person should not have been elected president. But
right.
elections are what they are, and that's where we are today. But it's important. The work you're doing is so important because it's focusing on solving those issues that happened in 24. So next time we have a clean election, and I want to just give you a moment here to talk about that and where people can find your work and how they can follow you.
Yes, so we've got my Substack, This Will Hold, and then also the Common Coalition. We're really more on threads over on the Common Coalition. That seems to be our more active space where we get more interaction and don't get as subdued as we do on other channels or just kicked off Twitter.
Yeah,
Thanks. And so,
yeah,
yeah,
where
we
that
have
happened to you.
just done all the digging and pulled out all the data. And, we've continued to go back. So we can see manipulated data in 2020 in Trump's favor. In 2016, we absolutely can see the manipulation there as well. And so it really, if you keep going back, frankly, the GOP hasn't won a legitimate election since Eisenhower, whether it's been with foreign collusion or dirty Supreme Court bench. But that being said, with the introduction of Elon Musk, and the 2020 to 2021 breach of the voting equipment in 5 different states, that equipment was still in use. There are so many avenues that they could have infiltrated. Elon Musk was partners with the corporation that Leonard Leo had sold to Palantir, which then partnered with Elon Musk, that has access to 70% of our voting
Crazy.
equipment.
It's
And
crazy.
and I was trying to explain to folks, it's not, this power supply situation. It's not like you go to Home Depot and you buy a cord and you plug it into an ES&S and Dominion machine, it's power. No, they're smart devices and they're programmable, and they can be programmed, remotely. So you can
And this is the
push.
same voting machines, the same power supplies that are going to be using voting machines next time round are the ones
Yeah.
we're talking about. These are ones that are networked together. The machines
Yes.
are not meant to be networked. They're meant to be separate. That's the
Right.
whole point behind electronic voting machines. They're meant to be air gapped, but the power supplies are somehow networked. That makes no sense. And
That,
it's just
and
one of the
then
questions you're
with the
raising.
low orbit,
Yeah,
the air gapping is kind of a non-issue now with the low
orbit
Earth
satellites.
orbit direct to cell satellites. So technologically, as experts have been saying for decades at this point, it makes no sense to be on something that's not open source code first and foremost. And if we're going to go electronically, it needs to be that. If not, we need to be on paper. And so Common Coalition, our biggest push, and we've got a letter going out tomorrow to all candidates that are running in all the ones that we have, Republican and Democrat and Independent. Hey, this is why our data looks like Russia's data, and it shows, frankly, the Tennessee election. You can see,
Yeah.
why it looks like Russia's, and we explain it. And it's like, if you're in a blue state, get to paper. While you still have states' rights, those secretaries of state and those decision makers need to be shifting gears and getting rid of their electronic equipment and moving to paper, because they're not going to be able to put an open source code program in time.
Thank
So
you so much.
hoping that we have an election in
Yeah.
2026.
We
That's
will.
ours.
We will. I'm sure we will. T, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate you staying up so late. I
Absolutely.
really thank you for your time tonight. And we'll
Thank
see you again on Narrative soon.
Okay. Talk
Cheers.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that has been an extraordinary long night that we've had with you tonight. Thank you very much for being patient with us as we've gone through this incredible array of guests. We're so fortunate to have all these great friends on Substack, and I really recommend each and every one of them to you to subscribe. These are the people that are fighting for the truth. These are the people that are fighting for our democracy as we head into this very difficult phase in American history. There is no doubt that the President of the United States is unwell, for one thing, but he's also still determined to push an authoritarian agenda. And despite what he claims, which is that he's giving, military people $1,776 each of them, which sounds impossible on the face of it, or that he's solved 3,000 years of war, or that the economy is humming away greatly. This is a president that is under attack right now. This is a president that is under siege as his popularity ratings are tanking, as his chief of staff continues to criticize him through the Vanity Fair article that she puts out, as his entire inner circle appears to be ready for an exodus at the White House. This is a time when this man could do almost anything, and we need to be careful and be vigilant as we continue our coverage here on Narrative. Thank you very much for being here tonight. We shall see you again in a few, tomorrow actually at 3:00. We'll be back with the 5-stack at 3:00 tomorrow. And I'll leave you with a little bit of tonight's speech. Let's listen to Donald Trump on the nuclear threat and the 3,000-year war that he solved.
I've restored American strength, settled 8 wars in 10 months, destroyed the Iran nuclear threat, and ended the war in Gaza, bringing for the first time in 3,000 years peace to the Middle East, and secured the release of the hostages, both living and dead. Here at home, we're bringing our economy back from the brink of ruin. The last administration and their allies in Congress looted our treasury, trillions of dollars, driving up prices and everything at levels never seen before. I am bringing those high prices down and bringing them down very fast.